Hello. Hey, good morning, good evening, wherever are you in the world. This is Hasper TV, and today I've got Aussie Spur TV from Australia. Okay, so how you go? How's it going?
I'm going good, mate. Thanks for that, and yeah, pleasure to be here to have a chat with you, mate.
Yeah. So on this segment, I do sort of like a thing where I ask people how they became Spurs fans.
Sure,
Also, significantly people who are abroad because I myself I'm curious about how it works for you lot, especially with timings.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Okay.
and also just like I find it personally myself actually very intriguing about how foreign fans sort of get into football, and also just what is the vibe like in, say, for example, somewhere like Australia for a team like Tottenham,
Yep,
when you have teams, for example, like Man United or Liverpool who have like a bigger following and that sort of thing.
yep.
So first of all, a very simple question: how did you become a Spurs fan?
I was actually born in England.
Uh,
I was born in Essex, so yeah, sort of local around the place. Dad was a massive Tottenham fan. Most of the family were Tottenham fans. Had a few road cousins who supported people down the road, but we won't talk about them. So yeah, so
yeah,
I basically grew up in the family as being a Tottenham fan from day one, and went with dad and the uncles to the old White Hart Lane to go watch games. But yeah, but born and bred, I can say to start with, mate. Before we came out
born and
here,
bred, born and bred. So, but as in, you said you were born in London, right, in Essex. So,
yeah, in Essex, yeah.
when did you decide to move to Australia? Was it just?
Um, so we came out here in '82. So just around FA Cup time when FA Cups were good
Oh
back in
yeah,
the
I
day.
wasn't alive then actually, but
Yeah, oh man, yeah, I was barely alive myself. No, I was
yeah.
what, 12 when we came out here, but yeah. So I sort of spent the first 12 years of my life around Essex in Hearts. Lived around Elsenham, Bishop Stortford area.
Mm.
Still got family all around there. My dad's actually over there now, visiting family. So yeah, I've been back myself once to remind myself of where it all started. But yeah, but always lived around those areas, and then yeah, now out in Australia on the east coast, probably a couple of hours north of Sydney. So yeah, it's I was going to say it's a bit warmer, but at the moment, I'm not sure if that's 100% right because
Oh yeah, it's quite
all I'm
good
hearing
weather
is
in
heat
London
wave.
at the moment. Yeah, yeah. We had 40
So,
degrees on Tuesday
oh, well, there you
the other
go.
week, yeah,
There
and
you
it
go.
was 38 the day before, but it's sort of cooled down a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. We had floods here recently, so it's kind of yeah, a little bit different. A little bit different.
Hi, Brian. Yeah. So,
Hey, Brian, the legend.
uh, the Brian Daigle, legendary Brian Daigle.
Absolutely.
So, so as in, like, for you, obviously, because you just grew up supporting Tottenham, like me,
Yep.
my dad supported Tottenham, so I was sort of
Yep.
brought up to support Tottenham. So, do you remember your first ever games, for example, White Hart Lane?
I do. We played. What was it? 1978.
Oh,
Jeez,
okay.
that's a while ago. Yeah, I know, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think we turned up to the ground and it was still in black and white. It was the end of '78. We played Bolton Wanderers. We beat them 2-0. And I remember the game because Hoddle, I'm sure we'll talk about, was my favourite player, and he
Yeah.
came off at half time, and I was devastated because I really,
Uh,
as much as I wanted to be there, I wanted to see Hoddle play, and he came off at half time. But
uh,
so yeah, so we won that game, but yeah, it was a while ago now though, '78. Jeez,
because that was
yeah,
sort of the team at that point in time was Spurs sort of developing that cup team to win in the 80s sort of thing
yeah, there
because
was a
obviously you
bit.
had
I
Hoddle,
mean,
Waddle,
yeah,
and
well,
Velia.
Velia and
They
Ardiles were
joined a
there.
bit later, didn't they? I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so you had, I mean, Steve Perryman was there, Glenn Hoddle was there, but we had like Don McAllister in the back line. We had John Pratt was playing, Colin Lee, some names from back in the day. But we were sort of, there was a few of those who, yeah, developed into the cup sides in the years to come. But and Barry Daines was in goal. I used to play goalkeeper myself,
All
so
right.
I wanted to be the next Barry Daines, but I don't know how that happened either. But yeah, so but essentially, yeah, there was a number in there that started the to form that cup side that obviously was successful for a couple of seasons.
So, for example, those are like your first ever Spurs memories. Like, do you have any, even just growing up, like a cup final or like just a vivid game that you always remember for just any sort of reason? Like for me, maybe it's a bit obvious, but considering the shirt I'm wearing, but
Yeah.
so like for me, when I was only about 18 at the time, but
Yeah.
I'm obviously it's about 12 years ago, but the one game I'll never forget for me at White Hart Lane was when we beat Arsenal for the first time in like 20 years or something.
Yep.
Danny
Yep.
Rose got that goal,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
mainly because I was the only person, because I go as like a family thing, so it's like a family will go,
Yep.
and we had 4 tickets at the time that I'll always remember because I was the one person in the car who was like, "We're going to win the game," and no one was like, "No one's like, no,
You're
no, no." Yeah,
you're on the money.
yeah, yeah. I mean, but like, is there ever a game like that that you remember, even if it was like just an that you've ever like? Even I remember really bad games that we lost 4-3 to Man City, for example, in the cup.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but like, is
Yeah.
there
Oh,
one
yeah.
game that you think back and you think, "Oh, that was just such an amazing game that you went to"?
Oh, I mean, obviously the cup replay, Ricky Vilia's goal. I mean, I was watching that on TV, and so I remember we must have had a few people over because everyone just went crazy when it went in. And my dad was someone who loved listening to the commentary and what they said. So we were charging around, arms in the air, cheering and yelling. And Dad's like, "Shush, shush! I want to hear what he says." It's like, "Don't care. We just won the FA Cup." So I mean, I distinctly remember that. It's funny you said the Danny Rose goal. That was one of the games I remember, just the way he hit that ball, and it was like it was in all
Yeah,
the way. Yeah. I mean, there's been some moments like that. That's just been Peter Crouch's goal against
City,
against City,
yeah.
the header. Gareth Bale. I think who was it? Black.
Just
Oh,
do you mean the one that when we played them at the Lane 1-3-1? That
yeah,
performance.
yeah. I mean, just and a Bale against Inter Milan. Like, there's
Oh
just
God,
been
yeah.
the more yeah, I could be here all night telling you. But yeah, I mean, it's Tottenham are just one of those clubs. When we do it properly, and there's plenty of memories there. I mean, Lucas Moura's goal and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it all started. The first one I can kind of remember pretty clearly was that Ricky Villa goal, because I remember FA Cup days being such a big day.
Mm.
In England, like the cartoons in the morning, it was the show, all like BBC and ITV and all that was all day, and I would just sit there all day just watching every little bit of it. The buses arriving at the Wembley Stadium and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, so they were good memories, absolutely.
So, as in, because obviously I was born in the 90s, so, but how was
Wow.
it like supporting Tottenham in like the 70s and the 80s? Because obviously I don't know. Like,
Yeah,
cause Spurs obviously at the time was still not like the most favored team, I'd say. You still had the Uniteds and Liverpool traditionally been like a big
yeah,
top four team, let's say.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
I don't know what Arsenal were like, but so what was it like?
It was I mean, we come up from the old first division,
Mm,
the later 70s. And I just we were just one of those teams that you just, I mean, and you're right. Even to this day, even in Australia, like I'll see a thousand different Man United shirts. I'll see Liverpool
mm,
shirts, and I get that. They get the publicity and late Man City shirts and stuff like that. But back in when I was at school in England, I mean, there was just as many Tottenham shirts. I guess it was the area that we lived in as well. I mean, we weren't that far away from London. Um, Tottenham were a team that, from where I was, it was, yeah, good old Tottenham, give it to them, play a good bit of football, and especially when Glenn Hoddle and the guys started playing some decent stuff, they were just great to watch. So from where I was, it was really cool to see. So yeah, we were pretty much liked, I guess, unless, I mean, there's certain clubs that will never like us, and we don't really care
yeah.
about them. But yeah, it was where I was from. We were pretty much. It was, yeah, good to watch for sure.
I think because Spurs for me have always been known as the club who just, I know the old phrase by Roy Keane, right? Lads, it's Tottenham, right? But I think
Yep,
it comes from sort of just, this is just my opinion, right? That we're known for a team that plays, say, good football, but doesn't
yep,
win anything.
yep,
That's the thing, the perception I have, right?
yep,
Which is
yep,
good in some sense because obviously we play good football, but in bad in some sense
yep.
because we haven't won anything, and that's obviously displayed. But for example, with Spurs back in the 80s and like the 70s, were Spurs known as this club still as like bottlers or
Well,
someone that
not
doesn't win
really,
anything?
because
Because
the
obviously you
early
won the
'80s.
cups and the FA Cup, so
Yeah, we had a couple of FA Cups. We had the UEFA Cup as well that we won. So I mean, Tottenham were up and around there. So it's we the early '80s were very successful time. And again, they were the years that we emigrated to Australia. So there was no
all right.
coverage of the games and all this sort of stuff. So we're sort of, ringing back to England, like, how did we go and all this sort of stuff. So we sort of had a few years, but they were the kind of the early '80s. We were on fire. So I
Nice.
think we were definitely you
Hey,
know,
Dave.
we oh, Dave's here too. Huh? What a legend.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we were definitely entertained. And as I said, the UEFA Cup. I mean, I remember sort of seeing bits and pieces of that as well. So, yeah, no, they were good times, mate. Wish they would come back soon.
I know. I like for me, it's just the last trophy I've seen us win was in '08, and I was 16, so that was 14 years ago.
Mate, we won a trophy last night. What are you talking about? I saw Larice go up and get it. So
Yeah.
I've seen it. I've seen it.
Yeah, but so like you said, obviously you went to Australia, and at the time, I guess there was a lot less of a Spurs community. Or am I
Oh,
wrong? I don't
absolutely,
know. Yeah.
absolutely.
So were you say one of the like not founders? I don't know if that's the right word, but one of the people to like uh, bring Tottenham to Australia? I don't know if I phrased that right.
Yeah,
Um,
it's sort of hard because I mean the rugby league's very big out here,
mm,
and Aussie rules like the Australian football. So I mean there were people, a lot of expats from England who still followed it, but again there was a lot of Man United, but you get the Leeds fan or the Brentford fan or the Derby fan, and
oh
and
right.
and there would be and you'd strike up a great conversation with him because it was just talking football with someone who actually understood, who'd been to the county ground, who'd been to the old main road, whatever. And that was really cool. So there wasn't really the rivalries as I guess there would be when you've got thousands of people all supporting different clubs and they're all on top of each other, whatever. It was, oh, you're a football fan, awesome, and then you start talking to them about football,
Mm,
right? So, I mean, I think very much. I mean, I can't recall apart from my brother maybe. I was the only one at my school wearing a Tottenham shirt. So there wasn't you didn't see too many of those around and stuff like that. But I think in the later '80s there started to be, in the early '90s there started to be this trend of companies bringing the club shirts out here. So we actually had shops open with club shirts, and you could start buying shirts. And I
oh,
think once that started to get going, there then became more interest, and pay TV started, so you could start watching games, and it kind of grew from there. But there was a bit of a lull probably in that mid '80s where there wasn't much going on at all, really.
so also in the sense that, for example, in somewhere like America, I'll just kind of compare it here.
Yep,
Spurs became big sort of because of they were buying players like Brad Friedel, Cliff
yep,
Dempsey. Now, the
yep.
only Australian player I did my research, by the way,
Oh, nice.
that even
Okay.
I could remember that we ever
Yep.
having was Massimo Luongo. I don't remember who that was. He
Oh,
was like
Massimo Longo.
yeah, and I don't
Yeah,
think
yeah,
from what I remember,
yep.
did he ever make a first team appearance? I don't think he did.
Oh, geez, he may have. He
He
may
may have
have.
made
I
one.
mean,
And apart from that, talking that side of the world, there was like Ryan Nelson from New Zealand, who,
yeah, he
who
had a game
yeah, he wasn't all right. He was all right, I guess.
mm.
But for
for a
like for
Kiwi.
example, in somewhere like Korea, obviously now there's a huge following because of his son,
Yep,
right? Because we have Sun. In America, it was partly because of, I would say, Brad Friedel Dempsey, that we were building like a
yep,
big American community. In
absolutely.
Australia, because obviously we haven't had a player like that, uh, I would say. Uh, would you say the community is like smaller there, or do you think that is there a scope for Tottenham to build a bigger following in that side of the world, in like Australia, New Zealand?
Oh, absolutely.
Is there potential for it?
Oh,
Do you think?
absolutely, mate. I mean, Spurs came out here, 4 years ago. I can't remember when. We played down in Melbourne a couple of games. I went down. We played Juventus at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. They came out the year before, played Sydney FC just down the road. So, I mean, Spurs have been out here a few times. There's an Oz Spurs supporters club now,
Oh,
and we have chapters all over Australia. I actually, my last just referring back to Aussie Spur TV, we actually did an interview with the Aussie Spur TV president in my last one, and he actually
I
spoke
watched
about
that
all the
actually
different chapters. Yeah,
yesterday. Yeah.
and he's yeah, it's just growing, it's massive, and I think, I mean, player wise, I mean, Harry Kuehl went over, played for
Oh
Leeds and
yeah, yeah,
Liverpool.
yeah.
Mark Viduka was over there.
Harry Cole
Probably
was
the
actually
most.
one of my favorite players growing up. Actually, I really
Yeah,
liked him.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Robbie Slater played for Blackburn when they won the championship.
Mm.
Craig Johnson went back in the day. I can't remember what the name of those boots that he designed, a pair of soccer boots, like Predators, I think maybe.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, and
One
so
of my
he was
friends
from
actually has
Australia
some
too.
of those.
Yeah, so yeah, keep them, be antiques or something. I'm not
Yeah.
quite sure, but yeah. So we've had some Aussie names that have come and played in the Premier League. over the years, which have been, which is fantastic, and it's good for the profile. It doesn't matter who they play for; it's good for the profile of the club.
Tim Cahill, I think, was the
Tim
Australian.
Cahill's another one I was just about
He
to
was a
say.
big one for me growing up. I remember at
Yeah,
Everton.
yeah. Oh, definitely at Everton, and certainly had some big games for Australia as well. And there's a number of Aussie guys, and they're all over Europe as well. So the players now are starting to, well, not starting to, they've been doing it for a while, but they've really started coming through the European leagues, and now we've sort of strengthened our Socceroos. We've made the World Cup again. I think it's five straight now. Pretty impressive, right? So the game's definitely grown with it, and I think the support of the English Premier League certainly sort of taken the flow with it as well.
So, for example, like you said, Australia have like made the World Cup again. They made, So, for example, in terms of Tottenham, though, as in, do you think that, like you said, there's potential to be a bigger following? If Spurs bought a big Australian player, now you're gonna have to enlighten me on if there is one coming out. Do you think there could be a chance that Spurs go big in that side of the world as well? Because obviously, I think Spurs have done really well to become big in Asia, for example.
Oh, absolutely.
And America, I think there's a massive following in America now compared to say 10 years ago. And obviously, Korea was inevitable with Son. Oh. Is there an Australian player coming through that we can buy that?
Probably not that I'd like to see quite
no,
at the moment.
There isn't one. Okay.
not really. I mean, I'd never argue with Mr. Conte if he said I'm buying one, but I can't think of anyone that would kind of suit us right now. But look, if we had an Aussie bloke come through the system and play for Tottenham, I mean, it'll be massive. I mean, as you just said, you saw the scenes in South Korea with Son and the team coming through. It was madness, right? And I'm sure the same sort of thing. And we just have Manchester United have been out here, played some games. Leeds United have done the same. Crystal Palace were over. So we've had clubs here over this last 7 days. And the followings have been really, really great. All these pub meetups and fan supporter kind of stuff going on. So I think any country, if you get someone and you mentioned America, Dempsey and Friedel and guys like that, it just connects you with the club and it just automatically brings in people and support and interest. So absolutely.
So I can't help ask you this because I'm Greek myself. Now there's quite a big Greek community in Australia.
There is.
Yeah, there is. Do you know why? I just have to ask you this because do you know why that's the case? Because I don't know myself.
Oh dear, testing my history knowledge. That wasn't on the run sheet, mate.
I'm curious.
I think it was for the work. I think a lot of Australia's a very multicultural place, and I think a lot of people came over from Europe for work and different specialities that we needed. So I think the Greek, and they're especially like Melbourne in particular, there's a real community down there, and it's up and down the coast. But it's all over. There's different communities everywhere, but very, very multicultural. I think people are surprised when they come out and they see how how many different nationalities we have. And you've only got to listen or look at the team sheets of our players, and you can sort of see their surnames, and it's fantastic, all the different places that they've originated from. And we've definitely, and the Greek community, I mean, obviously they bring their soccer talent as well as what other talents that they bring. So it's fantastic. So, and we're all Australians now. So here we go.
Here we go. So in terms of Tottenham though, so when you were growing up or just in general, did you ever have a favorite, because you mentioned Hoddle, right? Did you ever have a favorite manager or like Birkinshaw, for example?
Yeah, I was a Birkinshaw fan. I mean, he was there for, what was it, eight years, couple of cups in the UEFA. I mean, he just, to me, he just did his job. I mean, there wasn't really the coverage for me as a kid, like listening to what the manager would talk about, but he just seemed relatively unassuming, just got the job done. And obviously the success he brought to the club is it's unparalleled of late. So, you can't knock him for that. So I think during those times he had a great bunch of players. And obviously they developed, like we talked about, the 78 team going into the 80s and the players that stayed and what he added to it. It's just a brilliant job. And probably, I mean, I don't think Spurs fans underrate the job that he did, but I still don't think he gets the plaudits than probably what he should. So, it was great times. I had a soft spot for Martin Yole as well.
I mean, Joel was just
I came back, well, what was it must be 20, 25 years ago or something. That was the last time I actually came back, and I went to a couple of games and actually met him outside the gates of the old
oh
White Hart
wow.
Lane. And he said, well, I won't put his accent on, but he said, "What's your name?" I said, "Martin," and he said,
Oh.
"That's my name," and that was it. So, we got on like house on fire after that. But a top fella, but I always had a bit of a soft spot for Martin Yole as well. But no, Keith Birkinshaw for me, not just on his success, but he just, to me, he typified a lot of what the club wanted to be about, and the success came with it. So, yeah, for me growing up, yeah, definitely Birkinshaw.
Like, because obviously I don't remember. I know Joel. I remember Joel, of
Yep.
course.
Yep.
And there's a funny joke because he actually looks like my uncle. So we
Right.
used to, yeah. They do look a little bit alike. So it was all like a
Okay.
family
Nice.
joke, right? So when we had Martin Joel, it was like, like for me,
Yep.
Joel was the manager who, for me growing up, was a fun manager to put us back on the map because he took us
Yeah.
back to Europe
Absolutely.
after so many years, right?
Yeah.
But for
Absolutely.
Birkinshaw, I kind of agree with you because when people talk about the best ever Spurs managers, he doesn't really get much
Yeah.
of a mention apart from fans, I guess, in your era.
Yeah.
Even my
Old
dad,
people like
though.
me will say it.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it that way, but
You can go for it, mate. You can go for it.
yeah, but yeah. So like Birkinshaw doesn't get as much of a mention, I,
Yeah.
but as in because I wasn't alive then. What kind of manager was he? Because obviously, so if you saw JP's comment to the general. So if you were to
Yeah.
compare him, say, to a manager nowadays, or even like you said, Joel, because maybe I don't know if they're quite
Yep.
similar sort of managers, but
Yeah.
what was he like in terms of like tactics or just the way he played? Because the way people describe him to me, for example, is that he was a very hard
Yep.
nosed man, and don't
Yep.
people forget he did sort of take over Bill Nick, didn't he, in some sort of way? So
Yeah, it was
like, what
around
was
that
he
time. Well,
like?
I think well, Neil went to Arsenal, so I think he took over from him. But he just, I think he was just straight down the line. He was no frills. He definitely wasn't a Conte, Mourinho type,
He wasn't like that.
flair and
No.
all this sort of stuff. He was, from my memories too, but he was just very straight laced. Yeah, I can imagine him on the training ground saying, that's another 5 laps, or give me another 100 push-ups or whatever. I could see him
Yeah.
doing that. But he had some players coming through with a lot of talent. Like he managed Ozzy Ardiles, he managed Ricky Villa, Glenn Hoddle. And I always thought that, I mean, I'm a big Steve Perryman fan, and I think that, Perryman embodied what Birkinshaw wanted off the field, but he was that guy on the field, very much in that general mode. So I think, I think he knew what he wanted. He knew how he had to get it, and I don't think he wavered off the line too much.
So very hard nosed, brutal sort of sense that you my
Yeah,
way or the highway sort of manager, would you say, or not?
I don't know about brutal, but I think
Yeah.
he knew what he wanted. He wasn't going to flip flop around the place, but he loved the game of football, and I think that's one thing. And again, I'm only talking because I was only a real pretty young kid myself. It's more later sort of reading about him, but he loved footballers. I know he'd talk about Hoddle and Ardiles in particular, and the flair that they had, and the skills and the passion that they brought to the game. But he also admired the Steve Perrymans and the in later days like the Graham Roberts, the hard men who were going to do those jobs as well. So yeah, I think he was a good mix for us at the time, and was a great match with the squad that we had, and obviously successful at it.
So, in a sense, that was he a manager who liked to have, say, the card grafters and say in the back, and then say up to defensive midfield, and then he would let the flair players
do their job
at the front.
Yeah. You got to remember around FA Cup time, because he had Archibald and Crooks up front, and he had someone like Glenn Hoddle playing behind him, and then dealers. I mean, he had talent all over the place. But to me, he still knew how important the Perrymans were, the Graham Roberts, even like a Mickey Hazard, who was one of the most underrated players we've had. I think he was a brilliant player. But they worked their asses off. So to him, they needed to do that job just as much. So yeah, I don't think he was just, we're all about defense and we're just going to, put up a wall and hopefully score. And he wasn't like the total, let's just go out and score 20 goals type thing. I think he had a good mix, but I think he was hard about it. And I think he knew what he wanted, and he had the players to do it. So.
Because it was weird you mentioned that, because obviously we had, say, a manager like Santini, who was ultra defensive, who
Yep.
didn't work out. And then you had a manager like my dad told me about Oscar Diaz when he was manager at
Yeah.
Tottenham. He played like 4-2-4,
Yeah.
and it was just
Yeah.
chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was more like a 2-4-4, I think. I don't think.
really.
Yeah, you'd hate to be a goalkeeper in the Ozzy Ardiles management era. I think you'd be wondering where your fullbacks were. He was all going forward, that boy. But definitely a better player than a manager, Ozzy Ardiles.
Because I think there's this trend at Tottenham. Because I'm going to ask you about Glenn Hoddle in a minute, where we always want, say, a legend to succeed at the club as a manager.
Yep.
So, for example, now they're getting, and I love Defoe as much as anyone else, and I really hope he succeeds as a manager.
Yep.
Because Mason's sort of going the same trajectory that he played at the club, and now they're trying to build him up to take over in, say, 5-10 years. I don't know. But like Defoe, for example, is starting his coaching badges at Tottenham right now, from what I've heard.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think we tend to fall in love with this idea that someone who's like a great player will become a great manager.
Yeah.
And it's not always the case, right? So Glenn Hoddle, for example, for you, who was your favorite player growing up, when he was manager, and I remember this because I was old enough, it didn't really work out, did it?
Not at all.
Not at all. But like, for example, something like that, did that like really upset you? Or because for me, if Defoe became manager and didn't work out, I'd be really upset.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. Yeah, it's you want them to work out because you don't want their legacy tarnished, if you will.
Yeah,
so you don't want
exactly.
you don't want it taking away from the fact of how good a player they were to then be, oh, look what he's done to us. The club's fallen apart, and it just takes away from everything that he did. So you really hope that's not the case, and people can put a divider in between. Okay, that's when he was a player, and that's when he was a manager. Some people probably find that harder to do than others, but it was disappointing. I'd have loved him to take us to new heights and all that sort of stuff, but it wasn't meant to be, and it wasn't the only place he had some managerial issues. So we can't blame Tottenham wholly and solely for that. But it was more so that I just didn't want it to take away from it, especially because the memories I had of him as a player were just, he was just the best. So it was disappointing, but I didn't let it tarnish his reputation as a player.
Was he your favorite ever Spurs player then, Glenn Hoddle?
Oh, absolutely, by a mile, by a mile. Well, I say by a mile. I mentioned Steve Perryman before. He embodied everything about Tottenham that I loved as well. The heart, the solid kind of, just the captain, lead by the front. He just led by that, but pure quality was Hoddle. And as a kid in England, everyone was playing like him. Like the shirts were hanging out. You'd pull your socks right up. You'd have the little ties around the top.
I've seen that.
Yeah, you want number 10 on the back of your shirt, and you're trying to get the same haircut. You're playing, and you're spraying the ball from one side of the field to the other, trying to play these 40-yard. He scored a volley. Was it Man United? I think it was Man United. And he was a fair way out, and he hit this kind of scissor kick kind of volley.
Oh, wow.
And that was it. Everyone on the playground was just like, put the ball to me. I want it about that high because I want to do that. And it was, don't give me this stuff on the ground. I want it in the air because I can't. But that's what you do, right? You get your idols and you see what they do.
Yeah, exactly. I would say that's for me with someone like Defoe. I'm actually wearing Van der Vaart right now because he's probably one of my favorite ever players. But like with Defoe, he was, when I was growing up, always wanted to be a striker. So I do still play striker, but it's just five-a-side now. And I actually play defense now on eight-a-side, and I play as a winger. But anyways, so like I always, Defoe used to cut in and shoot, right? So because I liked him so much, I always tried to do the same thing like you did with Hoddle. Yeah, because he just, as you're growing up, you're just like, this is my favorite player.
Oh, he had this ability just to find space, and he had so much time. It was almost like he won it, and the other team would sort of sit back and go, right, what's he going to do with it? You wouldn't know because as much as, I mean, obviously the guy could dribble the ball, score some. I think was it his first goal he scored? It was a great run right through the middle, but he could hit a ball and land anywhere on the field, and all the other players had to do was make a run, and he'd find them. And the entertaining thing for me watching him was just trying to figure out where he was going to go, because half the time I thought he mustn't know. He's got that many options and he always lands it. He must just hit it and it lands somewhere. But no, he knew exactly where it needed to be, at what speed it needed to be. And watching him play, especially when Archibald and Crooks were there, I mean, that was just unbelievable. Just they just knew, make a run. Oh, the ball's at my feet. I'd love him playing now behind Harry Kane and Son. I mean, geez, that'd be a nightmare for most teams. But no, he was a very, very classy player. Absolutely, should have played more for England too.
Because I think there's always that. I know you haven't been to what I think it still was on the White Hart Lane video. I think when he gets the ball and he goes past like 3 or 4 players and he goes. I think he goes past the keeper and he scores.
Yep. Yeah, I think that was one of his. Might be. I'm not sure if it was his first goal. It was one of his early ones, but it was right down the middle of the field.
Yeah, he just runs through. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just another goal again. I think it was Watford at Vicarage Road. I think he's near the sideline, and he basically he chips the keeper, just this little flick, and you see defenders just like where did he go? Like literally professional footballers going, what's he do? He just, I think it's underrated too, because I think people see the magical side of what he did, but his general work as well. Like he wasn't a workhorse defending number 6 defender at all, but he put in his work, and he was always in those right spots at the right time. I think that was a little bit underrated, but yeah, to pass a ball and to hit a ball, yeah, there was none better.
Because I think the one player that I thought was often compared to him in the modern era, as in that I knew, was Luka Modric. Yep. The one player that people said that was the closest to Hoddle in some ways because of his passing. Yep. Obviously, Modric didn't score as many goals as Hoddle did, I don't think.
No.
But in terms of that sort of style of player, was Modric the closest to Hoddle. But was there another player apart from Hoddle, say in the modern era, so let's say after 2000s, who was like your favourite at all? Or
so more recently than Hoddle?
Yeah.
Well, Van der Vaart, I mean, I loved it when he was at the club. Edgar Davids when he was at the club, I love watching.
Even was it a year or two he was at Spurs?
He was a couple of years, yeah. Just I mean, it's funny how you try not to compare players from different eras, because you got as a child, your childhood heroes are a lot different to players we analyze now, and we look at their work rate and their passing ability, and we seem to really focus on so much. Whereas as a kid, this guy did this, and we go, oh, he's brilliant, he's awesome, like godlike. But I think I've always appreciated a player who goes out there and just plays football as if they're at the park, as if they're just ball at my feet. I'm just going to have a bit of a muck around game kind of. It was very, very less pressure and stuff like that. So yeah, we've had a few of those over the years. But I mean, sort of like Van der Vaart, as you mentioned on your show before. I mean, he had some brilliant games for us as well. Probably,
I mean, Rafa kind of really got us, I felt, and
I thought so.
And for me, Van der Vaart, this is a funny story, but before he came to Tottenham, I was watching him since he was at Ajax.
Yep.
And so I always wanted him to sign. And the day we signed him, I don't know if you have Sky Sports in Australia, but
we have versions of it. Yeah.
They pan to the thing on the Sky Sports news, and they go, Spurs are signing like a player who's like I don't think it even says Dutch international, so international player, blah blah blah. And for some reason, I already knew it was him. I don't know why. I already knew it was him. And then they panned back and then they got Harry Ramsey saying, oh, yeah, Rafa's come for his medical, blah, blah, blah. You know what Redknapp was like? And he was like, yeah. Well, he got cheaper like in the morning because he got offered to buy it, I think, for like 15 million the day before. I remember reading.
Yeah.
And then they were like, oh, he came for 8 million. And Daniel was like, let's do the deal. He gives me a call. And he's like, yeah, let's do this.
Yeah, we get good coverage of the transfer the last day of the window. I mean, even though again that's in the early hours of the morning, but for us, but I loved it. I love watching all the old transfer window stuff go down and stuff. Probably another player I probably should mention too, more recent, was Ledley King at the other end of the park. To me, it's great. We're talking about players sticking around in the club and being ambassadors and stuff like that. I mean, Ledley King, just seeing him come through and play was just on another level as well. Injury curtailed what would have been an even better career for the guy, but he's Tottenham through and through. And I even noticed in the tour to South Korea, he was doing some sideline interviews, doing a lot of chats and stuff on the coverage that we had, and it was quite funny. They sort of talked to him in she'd ask him a question in English and he'd answer. And then she'd sort of have to translate it for the viewing audience. And he was just like sitting there nodding, going, I don't know what you're saying, but yeah. And then sort of asked the next. But it was quite cool, and his face was magic. It was really cool to see. But no, seeing him and Michael Dawson was another one. Gives a lot of heart. That those kind of players are the ones you want to see out there. It's not always the passing ones and the ones doing all their things. So yeah, no, it's the hard workers we've got to acknowledge as well.
So for Ledley, do you think for you who's the best centre half you watched at Tottenham? Because I would say that myself.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Yeah, I'd have to. Yeah, I mean, he had deceptive speed. 2-3 paces, and I can't remember who it was against. His number of times he did it, but he could actually, be a mile behind someone, take 2-3 paces, and all of a sudden, bang! There's the tackle. I think it was Chelsea. Actually, I think the one I'm thinking of was.
I know what you're thinking of. Which one?
Yeah. But he just had that ability, and he didn't command respect. He got respect. Like I don't think he was that kind of we will do this, but you just listen to him, and I think the players around him would he'd lead by example, and he'd do what he did. And yeah, you got to respect that. So yeah, for me, I mean, I know Vertonghen and Alderweireld were good as a pairing, but I think Ledley King definitely for me, for sure.
I think actually, so I want you mentioned King and Dawson because I did meet them a few weeks before the season ended, nice. 2 weeks in a row. But nice. Unfortunately, you know what it's like. You meet someone and then suddenly everyone just floods around. So I shook their hand and then suddenly everyone just flooded around. So I was just like, okay, I'll leave you be for now because I'm not going to get an autograph or a picture.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. But as in for me, like with King, when you mentioned like his deceptive pace and that sort of thing, I hate to mention his name because it's a Spurs channel, but I remember Henri, for example, saying that King was the best player he ever played against, right?
Absolutely.
And I think with King, that people don't realize is that he sort of had like a footballing brain. His reading of the game, considering also he didn't train.
Exactly.
It was just incredible.
Exactly.
He could just, like you said, the Chelsea thing when I think he tackled Robben to stop him from scoring.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, Robben. Yeah.
And like you said, I think his reading of the game was just incredible, and he just, like you said, he was a silent leader. I would say.
Oh, he was a step ahead. He was a step ahead of everybody. So both literally and mentally, he would see the attacker and he would know exactly where they wanted to go, what they were trying to do, and he'd meet them there. He very, very rarely did he get caught out of position. He was all over it. So yeah, no, he was a quality bloke by the sound of it. I've never met the guy, but I'll say he's a quality bloke because he's definitely a quality player.
He was
a
nice bloke when I met him.
Oh, there you go. See? There you go.
But Dawson as well. I think I've heard a lot of stories about Dawson. I had someone on my channel like a week or two ago, I think, and he was telling me about he met Dawson and somewhere, and Mike was asking him like advice about what to wear or something. He was going on a night out or something. That's so he went shopping with Dawson, basically, really. but
something different.
Yeah, something different. But like, as in these players, also, I think Tottenham has a reputation of having like decent human beings as like players as well. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and we warm to them, right? We get that feeling ourselves through the warm and fuzzy kind of, and I think that's been Tottenham's problem too, because I think then we get a bit sentimental when it's like, oh, we've got to move them on, we've got to, they've got to go, and we're going like, no, but because they're a nice bloke. It's like, yeah, they might be, but we need someone in a better position. We're a football club, so yeah, I think that sometimes gets in the way. Probably happens at all clubs, but we're very we warm to our own very much.
I think Dawson sort of, for me, falls into that category because I think when he joined the club, he would join with Andy Reid. I don't know if you remember this.
Yeah.
And Andy Reid was actually meant to be the best player, as in he was a bigger name at the time. I remember my older brother telling me, "Oh, Dawson's like the better player." And bearing in mind, I don't really watch much Championship football, which is why my knowledge, just for example, someone like Spence is very limited. But I think with Dawson, I think it wasn't because he was like a bad defender we sold him. I think it's just because football evolved and he didn't like evolve with it. And I think that's why we just had to sell him. But in the sense that he was always speaks highly of the club. And I don't think he took it very personally either, that we got rid of him at the time. And I think Dawson with King, I remember that partnership under Martin Joel was like a very good partnership.
Absolutely.
Like they had a brilliant partnership together.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, the game's changed. I mean, players now where used to always pretty much be a 4-4-2 kind of format. Now we're talking,
Yeah.
attacking wing backs and 3 at the back and this, that, and everything else. So yeah, the game's changed. Players need to have changed. So yeah, it's definitely gone away from the time when I grew up playing. It was like, you're a centre back, you're a left back, you're a right back, you're a right midfield, you're a striker.
Yeah.
Now it's you do this, 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 and this. So yeah, it's a different game now these days.
Because I think from like Michael, it was always a stereotypical thing of he would like play the ball long. I don't know if you remember
Yep.
this.
Yeah, he
So,
hits some long balls. Yeah.
I mean, but we had Mido and Defoe, or someone like that, or Crouch and Defoe. So
Yeah.
it makes sense to go long in that regard.
Yeah.
But I think
Yeah.
because centre halves have sort of developed nowadays to you have to be a ball playing centre half or a ball playing defender.
Absolutely.
And I know this myself because I play there now. So
well, there you go.
it's like you can't just long ball it. I can clear it, like it's
Yeah.
fine if we're
Yeah.
defending. Okay, but now when I have the ball, I feel like I have to pass it to someone.
Absolutely.
I can't just long it.
No, or you got to be able to score goals like Eric Dyer from like 30 yards out or something
Yeah.
like that. So, yeah, the talent's gone up.
So I can't just get there and just kick it like long and hope someone gets it. It's more like I have to go out there and just pick someone.
Yeah. It's all
either
possession.
play it short, or sometimes I have to go back, or sometimes I have to go side. Sometimes I go. You know, you can't just. Back in the day when I was at school, for example, in defenders, because this is still in like the 90s and early 2000s, and the game hadn't developed to that stage yet, we were still in defense. I was like, just get rid of it. Just get rid of it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I mean,
ball it. Just make sure it doesn't come back.
Oh, mate, there's times now, even when I watch Spurs play, I wish someone would do that. I think,
I'm like
playing
that
out. They're playing out from the back. I get it. It's possession and all this sort of stuff. But there are times where I just think we should put our laces through it, just pump it down the other end, reset and go again. But yeah, that's probably why I'm over here. And Conte's getting, 12 million a year to coach. So that's probably why.
So in terms of modern managers, you mentioned Martin Joel, but is there one, for example, who is like your favorite? Like for me, it was Harry Redknapp, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of, when I grew up, there was a whole group of English managers that were coming through. You had, British managers. I mean, you had, the Alex Fergusons, and there was, Paisley, and Brian Clough and guys like that. There were a whole. Now they seem to be coming. There's a lot more from overseas. And I don't know. You could probably count them on one hand the amount of British managers in the EPL at the moment. There's probably not too many at all. But like managers wise, I mean, I liked early Mourinho.
I like Mourinho, but
just lately, I wasn't. I was kind of when he came to Tottenham. I mean, it was like, okay, it's Mourinho, that's great. I wasn't 100% sold on it, but his early stuff was brilliant. But yeah, I can't say there's been a manager I can say I've actually
like even Conte or not. Really.
Oh, nowadays, yeah. I mean, I think Conte himself is. He's a company within himself. He's not just an individual. You're getting a whole package with that guy. I think it's very calculated, which is very hard because he sounds like a very passionate person as well. But some of the things that he says, I kind of go, oh, really? But I think maybe gets lost in translation. But I think a lot of it's very deliberate as well. So it's just these days being a manager is a whole different thing than what it used to be. It's not just go down on the park and put the boys through a training session and sit on the sideline with a cigarette and hope your team wins. Like, it's different now, right? It's a whole science and the whole thing. So, it was funny even when you mentioned Glenn Hoddle before being a manager, and I think that was in the time where the whole role was changing, rather than just having a player who you looked at from the sideline going, well, he used to do this. He knows what he's talking about. That's great. Nowadays, it's a whole science. There's backroom stuff. We've just brought in a free kick specialist kind of guy with a whole heap of set plays. Like, really?
Finally, after how many years?
Well, yeah, exactly. And Harry's still taking them. So I don't know how that's going to work. But it's a different site. But John Toshak, you might not have heard of him back in the day.
Yeah,
he was a tough old manager. Yeah, he was someone I kind of think. But I always just got behind the Spurs managers at the time and sort of didn't really care about the rest. But you can't help but admire, the Alex Fergusons and guys like that. Brian Clough back in the day that, really, they set the benchmark in for how important the manager was to a team.
like for me, Sir Alex is probably the best ever manager, at least from what
Yeah,
I know of.
yeah,
He was just incredible because he
yeah.
rebuilt so many Man United teams, and even during like
Of
City's
course.
era when he got the money,
Absolutely.
Chelsea's era when they got the money,
Absolutely.
Arsenal's
Absolutely.
invincibles. I mean, he
Yep.
still managed to beat them. So
Absolutely.
for
Which is
me, it
good.
was the best ever. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, it's football has changed. We just talked about players have changed and managers have changed. And it's just,
mm,
I think back in the day, it was very more, when we mentioned Birkinshaw before, hard nosed kind of, it's very much my, as you said, my way or the highway kind of management.
mm.
Whereas now I think there's a little bit more of a, oh no, you'll be okay, but we'll talk to the psychologist and we'll get the, you know what I mean? It's very
Yeah,
involved
yeah.
and stuff like that.
Mm.
I would I would love to get a Billy Nick from back in the day to be managing a
Just
team now.
yeah,
These guys would not last 5 seconds.
yeah.
It's just totally different, right? So yeah, I think it's it's the game's more of a science now. When we were talking, it's a 15. Well, we've got 5 on the bench, so 16-man game now these days, rather than being an 11-man game because of the amount of subs that you can make. The game is just evolving, and you just got to go with it. So it's certainly changed a lot in my lifetime. I can tell you that.
Because from what I've noticed, and I've probably said this to tons of people on my channel, is that when I was growing up, like we mentioned, obviously about defenders was very different, but the game seemed a lot more um, passionate, a lot more intense.
Yep.
The rivalries felt like rivalries. I feel like once Sir Alex, for example, retired from Man United,
Yep.
and obviously you had the Wenger versus Sir Alex, you had
Yep.
Mourinho versus Wenger,
Yep.
which has been ongoing for years. I mean,
Yep. Probably still
like
going to
as
this
in
day.
those
Who knows?
rival, yeah. But Sir Alex versus Wenger was like a 10, 20-year
Yep.
rivalry,
Yep.
which obviously they fought for titles against each other,
Yep.
and also you felt the actual rivalry in those games. You had
Yep.
like Roy Keane versus Vieira, you
Yep.
had Pizzagate, you had like
Absolutely.
these sort of things do not happen nowadays. I feel like
No.
it's sort of been watered down a lot, and
Yeah.
I feel like football is sort of very commercialized, as displayed
Yep.
by the fact, I mean, we've got a new stadium,
Yep.
and it sort of lost its like the rivalries. It's lost its like, even watching United versus like you'd imagine because of the history, United versus City or United versus
Yep.
Arsenal, or even United versus Liverpool. Now, I don't feel the same sort of animosity between
It's just different.
between the fans or even just between the players. Now it's like they found someone to shake their hand. Back in the
Yep.
day, Roy Keane would go and just clobber Vieira or something, and it's just like
Absolutely.
it's fine,
Uh,
just get up.
exactly.
It's part of his
Exactly.
rivalry.
It's there seem to be a lot more passion, but I think half the problem now, I mean, maybe social media, I mean, everything these guys do now is under the spotlight. I mean,
Woke,
and
woke
everywhere.
culture. Yeah.
And and so I think everyone's just a lot more careful now. It's like, well, I can't, there was probably time. I mean, I remember, you're talking about, tunnels and stuff like that with
Yeah.
Roy Keane and saying whatever, but
Yeah.
there's cameras there now, or when that got captured. But I'm sure in back in the day when teams were lining up in the tunnel waiting to come out,
Yeah.
there was
Yeah.
plenty of words that were said that
Yeah.
couldn't be
Yeah. I
repeated
remember.
anywhere else, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So nowadays it's we see them leaving the dressing room and they're warming up, and then we see them walk here, and then we see them sitting here, and I think a lot of that they're just like, just can't do it nowadays. It's just, and because everything that does get said then gets analyzed by millions of people on Twitter and all the socials that
Mm.
it's prosecuted by people. Yeah, it's a different world. And I think, you're right when it comes to the passion. And I think now that we got passionate players out there, we love to see it. We love to see passion out there. But it's a bit more sanitized now. But then again, North London derby, the last
Yeah.
one. I mean,
Yeah.
watching from the TV over here, my hairs were standing on end through on my arms, and I'm
Mm.
on the other side of the world. Like you could feel that, you could just feel it coming. God knows what it would have been like to be there.
Oh,
You could feel it.
I'm not going to repeat some of the words I said during that game to the Arsenal players anyway, but
That's fair. That's
it
fair.
was a first North London derby at the new stadium as well, so I felt like
It
it had
was,
an
yeah.
extra
Yeah, with
kick to it,
full
let's
crowd.
say, and
Oh,
it was
it was
just
brilliant.
it was a
Brilliant.
brilliant
It
match.
was
We won
brilliant.
3-0, so
Couldn't ask for anything more. And again, I've done a few chat things with some Arsenal fans that were there too, and they
yeah,
atmosphere was it was really, and you love that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm glad that it was at Tottenham. But I love seeing that when Arsenal actually went to play Newcastle, the game after that.
Yeah.
And that atmosphere in Newcastle was just like, they got absolutely nothing to play for. It's the last game at home for the season. They're not qualifying for anything, but the passion and the crowd, and it was just, there was no way Newcastle were going to lose that game. The crowd wouldn't have let them leave the ground if they didn't win that. So yeah, I love watching. I really love watching. Passionate football fans, passionate players, and it certainly adds a different dimension to it. That's for sure.
Because I think it's sort of, I would say, if I were to pinpoint a certain time when it changed, it was probably at the end of 2010 or something, when the rivalries became a bit watered down. And it does coincide, I guess, with Wenger leaving Arsenal, sort of in that sort of era. And then they just, obviously, Arsenal, they struggled to find someone else. But like, for example, back in the day, you say, Joel versus Wenger back in 06. I would say that was, I remember the touchline. Do you remember the touchline?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then when we scored the goal with Robbie Keane. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think the only thing similar now was probably Conte and Guardiola. I mean, they're not best mates, but you just don't see it. It's like a little, here's a handshake, I'm done. Like,
it's not like press conferences.
No,
shots at each other.
I want to see things thrown and stuff like that. But it's just so professional these days that it just doesn't. It's not going to happen. So, the clubs bring these guys in to bring success, not to bring fines. But it's I'm still old school when it comes to that sort of stuff.
Because for me, I'd prefer if Conte was like, before the City game, for example, just taking shots at Guardiola and we're trying to wind him up. Because it'd be more entertaining. And
Conte Cam is one of the best inventions ever that I've ever seen. Like, to watch that guy, I mean, again, if I was at the game, I'd be watching the sideline more than I would the game.
Yeah, where I sit, he's right below me. So
there you go. Yeah, he just and the passion that he's when we score, and I love that. I want to see more of that. And I think when you know that your manager is on board, they're not just there to get the paycheck; they're there to make a difference, and that builds everything. It builds everything from the players to the fans to the club itself. So I mean, I've watching Conte Cam and watching going up and down that sideline. I mean, it's just fantastic. So long may that continue. That's for sure.
Because you mentioned Mourinho before. For me, the big difference I think between Conte and Mourinho is that Conte is just more likable. I think Mourinho, because he was manager of Chelsea, and he's manager of United, and he comes with that reputation of being like a Marmite player, manager. I liked him. I actually love Mourinho. I've always liked Mourinho, and if I met him, I'll happily take a picture of him. I'd love to just meet him because he has that sort of flair.
He's got that aura around him for sure. Yeah,
he's a charisma. And I was buzzing when we got him because I felt like he was going to come to Tottenham because the way he was talking about us when he was doing his punditry. I felt like he was eyeing that job up for a year. And I was really excited when we got him. But I think because there's half our fan base, or maybe even be more, have the preconception of Mourinho as this horrible person. He's a horrible man. And all this, they hated him. And I think that's why partly didn't work out because obviously the club does have accounts online on Twitter, so they do know what we're saying about stupid, the club, right? So I think it's partly because of that he got sacked. Okay.
No.
And then
absolutely.
But with Conte, because Conte is just more of a likable person. And the way he talks, he doesn't have this whole. Okay, he was manager of Chelsea. But he doesn't have this, and he was only there for 2 years, I think. But he doesn't have that whole preconception of, I'm a horrible person, blah, blah, blah. People, and because of the way he acts as well, people warm to him a lot more. With Mourinho, I think the problem was just people didn't either love him or hate him, if that makes sense.
Exactly. And the thing is, I mean, when you turn up, I mean, I've spent most of my life now out in Australia, but, when someone turns up and tells you that they're the special one, as a naturalized Aussie now, it's like, mate, you're what do you call it? Up yourself, as in, back off, do the job. And I think that's probably a little bit of the difference. I think Conte probably knows he's had a successful career. He's one of the best in the world, but he's not done. And everything I hear from Conte, he was talking end of last year. I think we'd moved up to fourth, and we were behind Chelsea, and everyone was saying, "Oh, how good is it that you're now ahead of Arsenal? You got to keep them at bay." And he's like, "No, we're chasing Chelsea." I don't care about down there. We're going that way, and I love that. It wasn't who cares what. I mean, where everyone. We want to go up. We want to improve. I'm here to do this. That's my job, and I love that. And some of his press conferences, some of the things he says, I think, man, have a chill pill kind of thing. But that comes with the territory, right? And if we want him to be passionate, we want him to be on the sideline, pumping the fists up and getting behind the guys and really driving them at training. That's what we want to. That's what we want to see. So I think that was the difference. And to me, as much as when Mourinho first came in, I was like, it's Mourinho, that's awesome. But then he tended, when things weren't so he sort of tended to drift back a little bit. It was almost it's like that meme where you see the person going back in the bushes and they disappear. It was kind of a bit like that. Whereas Conte stands it, and I know he's got that thing of when he's had enough and he just goes, but at least he knows it. I'm done. I'm out of here. He's not going to hide from it. So no, mate, I think I think having Conte is an absolute blessing right now, and bring on the season, I say.
Yeah. So I thought I'll just, before we go to like some ending segments, I thought I'd just touch on Pochettino briefly.
Yeah.
So what did you think of Pochettino as a manager? And did you think, because for the only title charge I've ever seen for Tottenham was, for me, I know we finished second behind Chelsea, but it was that Leicester season.
Yep.
What did you think of Pochettino's reign? Do you have any like fond memories of it? And like, what was your just opinion on him? Because like for me, I respect what Poch did. I loved him when he was here, but there's always this notion that we should take him back and blah blah. And I don't want him to come back.
No, and
but like, what did you think when he was here? Because he was a manager who came in, for me, who didn't come with like, well, Conte has a reputation, Mourinho has a reputation. He came from Southampton. I didn't know what to expect, right? And obviously he exceeded all our expectations, at least mine. What did you think of him? And just in general, let's talk about Pochettino.
I think I think he had a very good squad, and I think I think in a lot of respects he was the right bloke at the right time. I think his attitude, the way he communicated with the players, he was very much a bring everyone in together, kind of let's do it. I think we needed that at the time. Absolutely. Do I think if he came in now, would he be able to do that? No, I don't, because we're a different squad. And so if you're looking to, and it's hard to compare coaches, but if you're looking at a Conte, I look at players that developed in the last part of the year last year. Even an Emerson Royale, for example, stepped up a little bit. Different players. Dyer stepped up a little bit. Also, even Højbjerg was, who I sort of consider pretty, general, kind of goes pretty good. But I even think he dragged a bit more out of him as well. He sort of really affected. I don't think Pochettino is that type. He's the type that if everyone's playing well, he'll keep them happy and keep them on the ball. And I'm not saying he wasn't running great training sessions. I'm sure he was. He's a top level manager, but I think his go was really that we've got a great squad. We're playing some great football. Let's just keep juggling. Keep all the balls and the plates up in the air. Let's just keep it all rolling. I think that was his thing. As a manager, and I think we've seen that at PSG when there's big personalities who come out and say, I do this. He goes, okay, then. And that's just it. And you wouldn't say that to Conte. I wouldn't care who you were. Either Conte's gone or that player's gone. Something's going to happen. Whereas I think Pochettino is very much okay, then we'll go with that then. Not saying that, he hasn't got his times where he stuck up for himself, but I just think from what I saw at his time with Tottenham, there were times where there were some probably bigger decisions to be made, and I don't think he made them. And I think it was to the detriment of us at sometimes with selections. And I think, if we're going to go to the next level, we couldn't do it with Pochettino. So when people were saying, we're waiting for Poch to come back, I'm like, why? We need more than that. So I don't dislike the guy. I mean, obviously the time he was here was great, was good fun. But I'm in the same boat as you. I think if the job became vacant now, I wouldn't be saying get me Pochettino in.
I think with Poch also, there was always that cloud of Man United, because I didn't remember this, but Fergie had a meal with him.
Yep.
In the middle of that Leicester season, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, he's going to go Man United," because there was that talk over those years that he was going to go Man United, because obviously Ferguson had left. I would argue even now they're still in a flux, because I don't think they've recovered since Fergie gone.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
Pochettino was the man, and blah blah. And obviously, he didn't go there in the end because we
Yeah.
tied him down to a new contract. But
Yeah.
also with Pochettino, I think he accepted players, any player he was given, like
Yeah.
Sissoko, for example. I'm
Yeah.
sure
Oh,
that
he
wasn't
did.
his choice.
He did. He did. But he gelled everybody, right? The whole
Yeah,
club was kind of like, yeah, let's go. Let's, everyone was singing, his name just in the crowd.
yeah,
Like the fans loved him because the results we were getting were good. The players seemed happy. They were all, yeah, Potts this, Potts this. It wasn't a bad time when he was here, absolutely. But I think for the style of manager that you need to really
take,
drive hard and
yeah,
push hard and go that next level, I'm just
no,
not sure if maybe he will be. He's not. I don't think he's the oldest manager in the world. So, few more years under his belt, who knows? But I think he came in at a time where we needed someone for the club and the players that we had, and he did that. And I think you got to give the guy credit for what he did there. But I think to take us to that next level, I mean, and you got to think he got us to a Champions League final, and let's not talk about that game. But we
yeah,
were there,
yeah.
and we were there, and so you can't knock him for that. Absolutely. So I'll never shake my head at the guy and stuff like that. But I think if they say, oh, we need him back at Tottenham, I think I'd probably say no.
So, like, also with Poch, I feel that, for example, like you said, he didn't have exactly that
Yep.
level to take us. But do you think? Because I'm going to ask your opinions on this because you're here anyway.
Why
Do you
not?
think Levy and Enoch let him down?
Oh, you know what? I hit obviously because I'm not there. We hear a lot of the
Yeah,
Levy in, Levy out, and all this.
because I'm
And
a
I say
Levy
there's
out,
that.
so away.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
say to everyone, right, and I respect everyone's opinions.
yeah,
I'm not at the cold face that I hear absolutely everything, right? So if people say, yeah, we've got to get Levy out because he's not done this, or bring him in because and Enoch, and I don't know it well enough to form a real solid
oh, fair
opinion on
enough.
it.
No, I'm just asking
But
because.
yeah, but what I'll say is I'm Tottenham Hotspur. So
Mm,
I'll be honest with you. If Levy's there at the start of the season, I'm going to follow Tottenham and hope they win. If he's not there, I'm going to be there the first game of the season, watch Tottenham and hope they win. I don't
yeah,
care who the owners are. Do I think there should be funds made? And absolutely. If you want to compete as a club, then obviously there's got to be funds there. There's got to be like what we appear to be doing at the moment. We should have been doing Champions League year and stuff like that. We should have taken that next level there. So I listen to those arguments and I understand them totally. But I very much just sort of sit back and go, all right, well, I don't care who the owners are, essentially, as long as they're looking after the club. And if they're doing a decent job, then great. But if they're not, well, then, yeah, absolutely, they should be going. But currently, right now, where the checkbooks are out and we've got players coming in left, right, and centre, I'm pretty happy. So, yeah. But it's an interesting thing to watch from the other side of the world when you don't know all of the facts and you don't know all of the details. You kind of see it, and it's an interesting thing. But yeah, I've heard many a time on different chats. People having their conversations about it, and I find it really interesting. But at the end of
yeah.
the day, I'm
I
like, yeah,
thought I'd just
okay,
ask you
that's good.
anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. It's an
Yeah,
interesting
yeah,
debate. And there's passionate people both sides, and I respect them
yeah.
all. Absolutely.
So, in terms of just looking forward to next season,
Yeah.
number one, are you happy the signs we made?
Yep.
Yeah.
I am
Is there one
absolutely.
in particular very happy with?
Basuma.
Basuma. Oh,
Um,
Basuma's one for you. Yeah.
yeah, I just think that. I mean, they're all going to add their value, but I just think that the one thing, not to replace anybody, but we just needed that extra effort in the middle of the park. I
Mm.
think Hoiberg is an absolute warrior. I think he did a great job. I'm going to take that as a compliment, Ellie. Thank you for
Okay.
that. I'll take that as a compliment. Yeah, look, I think Hoiberg is a warrior. Did his job and stuff like Skip had his injury. Bentancur made a difference, but to give those guys an option as well to have someone like Basuma who can cover a few different roles, box to box. I think that's just what we lacked in the end to help out with those other guys. I think he'll make a massive difference. Although in saying that, I watched the game against Rangers, which was last night for us. I thought
Yeah.
Spence actually did quite well when he came on. I was like, okay, yeah, that's because I'm the same as you. I don't know a hell of a lot about him, but I
Yeah.
thought, okay, bit of Conte coaching there. But man, I don't think we've made a bad signing in any of the guys that we brought in.
So, because I know for me, I still think we need an attacking midfielder and a centre half.
Yep.
But if you could sign one player, I'm thinking realistically now, who would be your
Yep.
next signing?
I still think we need a centre back. I still think we need.
Anyone in
I
particular?
mean, well, I know Bastoni keeps coming up and then going and coming back. I mean, to me, he'd be perfect. I mean, Bremer's done now, but I just think we just that middle of the park. I don't know if we're going to get any more coming in with this whole, well, especially right wing back. I mean, we've got Perisic and Sess on the other side. He's trialing more. Moore has played there a few
Yeah, I
times,
know.
and
Yeah.
Doherty and Emerson, and now we've got Spence. I think out of all them, I think someone will end up just sitting in that spot. I don't know if we'll get someone else in. I think that's it now. And I think you know, Dyer improved out of sight. End of last year, the Conte effect, as we like to say it, and which kind of wishes we could bring Roden into, because I think he could develop into quite a decent player.
I think he's on his
But
way out, though. I heard.
yeah, but we just seems the way to go. But we need the experience now. We need players ready for 2 weeks' time or 1 week's time, whatever it is, when we start the first game. We don't need players that are 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the track and one day there'll be a good one. We've got enough of them in the club. The Alfie Devines and the Parrots. We've got those guys. They're on loan and stuff like that. We need to me, if I had the checkbook, I'd be looking centre back, someone who could take the spot on Dyer and even be an upgrade on Dyer.
Yeah.
That to me would be the one. Yeah, that's where I'd go.
I was saying, because say Bastoni is not available this summer because he's more of a left centre back anyway.
Absolutely.
But I was talking to someone else on the stream, and we were saying that we should go for maybe someone experienced. Like, I think Chiellini is off the cards now, but someone of that ilk. Like, I don't know if Bonucci's available, but say if we can't get our first choice, because obviously Bremer's gone now, he would have been my choice for me. If we were talking middle centre halves, bring in someone like that, like a Bonucci or like a really expensive, or the De Vrij. I think De Vrij's at Inter, right? Something like that, just for a short term, like a year.
Absolutely.
And then we can go out next summer and get a Bastoni, get Longley on a permanent, and then maybe get someone else.
Absolutely.
Even, like, it may be the way to go. I think. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we haven't signed Perisic for a 5-year. We've got him for I think 2 years. And that's what we want him for. 2 years, mate. Give us everything that you've got. Cess will learn off you as much as he possibly can, and then they can move on up, and there should be a progression there. We haven't got that on the other side, and that's been the problem, I think, is that, Conte has had he's always had this knack of turning players into different positions. Like if Mora ends up being the right wing back, he would work on him but there's not many coaches I think could do that better than Conte. So, it's a good thing, but we just don't quite have that, the senior. I mean, even Richarlison learning off a Kane, guys like we got that all over the park, and even people talk about Lenglet and stuff like that. They got experience, and people around them are only going to learn. So to me, it's we need players who are I call it battle ready for this season. I don't care whether they stay next year or not, or the year after, because if they're here this year and they're quality, and we end up in Champions League and win a few trophies, more people will want to come here. We'll end up being in the clubs where we just need to bring in 1 or 2 players rather than this whole 6 or 8 player kind of thing we're doing now. So that's where it'll end up. But we got to get there first, I guess.
I think for me, if I was to pick one of the signings so far we signed that I was most excited about, it's probably Perisic.
Yep.
For me, because I just think he brings us. He's a Conte player, as in he's Conte's man.
Absolutely.
And I think that was very significant.
Absolutely.
And I think he's even though he's 34, right? He's still just so good for his age.
Mate, he's the fittest guy out there. I mean, and that's the thing. He's experienced. He played in the last World Cup. He scored in the last World Cup. He plays for Croatia, one of the strongest, countries at the moment coming around. The guy is no mug, and he's ready. Like, bring him in. He knows Conte. Bang, put him in there. He'll do the job. And that's exactly what we need. We don't need, bring someone else in who doesn't know the Conte way or the Conte system, and then we've got to slowly bring him in. I think there's been a very deliberate thing. When you look at the players we've brought in, they're people who match exactly how Conte wants to play.
I think so too. Yeah.
And that's been the message. And sometimes where we've looked at players and gone, we should sign them. Yeah, I'm not saying they're not quality players, but they're not going to fit into what Conte wants. So it's irrelevant. It's an irrelevant point. So, I think we've been very smart for what we need. So I guess time will tell, though.
I think because there's always this argument about I don't know if you've seen the Zaniolo links from
Yeah,
Roma
yeah, yeah.
and the
Yep.
Madison stuff from
The
Porto,
Madison stuff as well. Yeah.
etc. Yeah. So there's always this argument that, and I still stand by this because I've had so many debates about this on other channels and
Yep.
just podcasts and just in in chats that I still think we need a sort of playmaker sort of player, right?
Yep.
Because when we play slow blocks, we really struggle. But
Yep.
I think it's important and that we bring in a player sort of like, do you remember Fabregas at Chelsea when Conte had him?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
When he
Yep.
would play deeper and then he played further up some games. Like,
Absolutely.
I think it's important that if you're going to bring a player in like that, he needs to be like a versatile player.
Yep. Absolutely.
And I haven't watched enough of Roma to say about how much I know about Zaniolo. But do you think this breaking down low blocks, do you think it's been is a problem for us still, even with the signings? And do you think we should go out and sign a Madison or a Zaniolo? I'm in the Madison camp, by the way.
Yep. Yep. Quality player. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that this 5-man bench is going to change things big time. I think, and I'm not talking about a attacking. Legend. And I'm not talking about we're not going to American football where it's attacking team, defending team, but coaches, and you got a Conte on the sideline that can look at something and go, "This is what's happening," and you can change half your team. 5 players changes half your team. So if they're doing that kind of stuff, he can make the changes to do it. And if he's got, as you said, a Madison or someone on the bench who he can go, you know what, they're doing this, I'm going to put him in here. Awesome. And I think that was the thinking behind Richarlison as well, because he can play at that 9. He can play wide. They can play Richarlison up on as a point and bring Harry back and let Harry start playing the playmaker role. If it gives him choices. I mean, don't get me wrong, Harry Kane should be as far up the field on the edge of the box scoring goals. Don't get me wrong. But we've got choices and we've got changes. And now that we've got guys out wide that are dangerous, it makes defenders very hard to play a low block because they've got to, it's right across the field. So, look, I think I'd definitely be looking at, I mean, I don't know what you thought about the Christian Eriksen thing, but that kind of molded player, I think would have been handy in this game now where we've got 5 on the bench and a coach, definitely a smart coach, can read a game. And I'm sure there's not many better than Conte, can go, righto, bang, change this, that'll do the job.
I think what's interesting that people need to know, I think they probably know this about the 5 sub rule, is that you can only do it in 3
stages.
So you could do 2-2-1.
Yep.
3-1-1.
Or whatever. Yeah.
Or whatever, 1-1-3.
Yeah.
So it's like, but I think you make a very good point, the 5 sub rule, because he could potentially change 2 fullbacks.
Yep.
Someone in the midfield, or even 2 in the midfield, and then one of the forwards.
Absolutely. Or you can make a massive change.
One as 2 centre halves, even.
Yep.
2 central midfielders and one and I think people need to take into consideration that this is why we should be trying to sign a player like Madison, because we have 5 subs and we're going to need to break down a low block side. So you're going to need someone like that. Even if you played, like, for me, I think personally Madison could even fill in, not playing the same way as Kulusevski, but play off the right in sort of the way Eriksen used to play off the left under Pochettino. Right. So, and then you can even play Madison deeper because he has got that experience from Leicester.
Yep.
And you can play Madison just behind Kane and Son.
Yep.
Right. And for me,
who needs Conte, mate? We've got this covered. But
as in, I think it's important that if we sign that sort of player, it has to be versatile, because I think a lot of people argue, oh, well, why are we signing this? He can only play in one position, blah, blah, blah. But Zaniolo, for me, I don't know enough about him to say, but as far as I know, he plays like wide, and I think he plays in the 10. I think
so too. Yep. Yeah. And I know he's got dodgy knees as well. Apparently, that's an operation. So as someone with dodgy knees, I can clarify. But the thing is too, I think this is where Basuma will make a difference too, because sometimes we worry too much with the low block about just the front 3. The low block can be beaten by your midfield and how you're starting off with the ball. So. So someone like a Basuma who adds a little bit of a difference. I mean, even the touches, I mean, you sort of, I don't know about you, I've been going back watching old Brighton games now from the last season going, there he is. And it's like, but
I've always liked Basuma, so.
I've obviously known about him and seen bits and pieces, but he has that ability to shift gears really quickly. and he can get him that 10, 15 yards. And that makes a big difference to a team trying to be really organised at the back, that you can get at them before they get a chance. And if they're looking for where's Son, where's Kulu, where's Harry gone, where's, someone who can shift the ball really quickly, he's going to make a massive difference for us. So, yeah, look, I think a creative player, bring him off the bench for sure. It's just whether someone like he's going to come for that sort of money and be happy to start that role on the sideline, because I think one thing with Conte is he's going to have his lineup. He's not going to change it too much to start with. Is a Madison going to say, all right, mate, well, I'll sit on the bench and just call me when you need me kind of thing? I don't know. But then again, coming to a club playing Champions League football, I think it's a bit of a draw card. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens over this next week or two. I think there's still like 3-4 weeks of the window left. So, yeah, anything could happen. Anything could happen.
I think, also, you forget, I think the season starts in 2 weeks, so I'd rather they start tomorrow. But, yeah.
Crazy. I'm catching up on sleep already.
All right. So I don't want to keep you too long because I don't know what time it is in Australia now. It's quite late.
No, it's 10:15, mate, but it's fine.
Oh, it's all right then.
We don't need beauty sleep over here, mate. We're fine.
Okay, so just to close it off, what do you predict and what do you want to happen next season? And then, I think
I think I'm along the general. Champions League is a must. I think. I mean, I know I saw Chelsea got done this morning, but you can't pay too much attention to different things. But it's a bit of a shame they seem to be struggling a little bit at the moment. But what's this? The Aussie Couva. Oh, I love that. I'll take that the Aussie Couva.
You know what? I can see the resemblance now. But anyway.
Oh, he's a good-looking man. He's a good-looking man, Couva. So yeah, I'll cop that one too. Look, I think I think we can be challenging for third. I can't see Man City, taking any steps backwards unless they start fighting with each other about starting spots or something stupid like that. But Liverpool, not 100%. I think Mane is a big loss for them, but I still think obviously they're going to be up there. But you don't know, and who knows with Chelsea? I mean, trial games are trial games. So look, to me, Champions League is a must, and we've really got to be pressing for a trophy. If we get to a final and get beaten by Man City in the final, well, so be it. I mean, we know how good these teams are, and they're in every competition that we play in. Like Man City, Liverpool are in the FA Cup, they're in the Carabao Cup, they're in the league, and they're in the Champions. So we've got to go a step above them to win it, right? So you just got to hope for draws, like a decent draw, maybe avoiding them to the final. Beating them, I mean, Man City fear us anyway because they can't. At the moment, which is pretty cool. But mate, I'd love to see us win a trophy. I think apart from the one we won last night. But I think Champions League is an absolute no-brainer. We've got to at least get Champions League again, and definitely push, if not, take home some silverware.
I think for me, I'm gonna go on record to say this, so I hope I'll probably just get memed in like a year or something.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so I think Liverpool might drop off because obviously Mane, there's a factor, but I also think Nunes settling in that Liverpool 11, and just because I don't think Nunes for me really suits, from what I've seen of him, suits Liverpool's style as much. And I don't think he will score as many goals as people think. And also, you forget that Diaz is going to be covering that Mane spot from now, right?
Okay.
And it's going to still take him time to settle in, right? So I think Liverpool are catchable for me. I think we can nick that second spot at least. I think it's on the cards. Because I think, and also there's another factor here that I was speaking to someone about this yesterday. So when Liverpool drop, City tend to drop, right? Because they have this whole fight against each other, right?
Yep.
So if Liverpool was to drop and City was to drop their level a bit, and maybe fingers crossed, say Haaland gets a little knock or something.
No, okay.
maybe the title might be on the cards. Like maybe we could sneak in there and try and get.
You think Hamilton and Verstappen take each other out in the corner and it's anyone's game?
Just go through, and then we just go through.
I think you're right.
But I do I say this. I do fancy us to make a title challenge this year. I really do. And if we bring in this extra centre half and this attacking midfielder in the next week or two, I'd really do fancy us to do it.
Oh, absolutely.
Before we get
it's exciting. I think this is a season where we're actually sitting back going, we've all dreamt of, we're going to win the league. We're going to do this. We say whatever we say. I think there's a genuine belief that there's enough quality there even now that we should be pressing a lot harder. So yeah, I think it's an exciting season coming up, and I mean, it's Conte with a full preseason and a full season in. So, I mean, anything can happen. So we've got some quality out there. It's going to be exciting. I'm really, really pumped for this season coming up.
I'm really
I'm glad the
excited.
trial games have started, man, because it's like, I'm sick of the transfer talk and all this stuff. I just want to play.
I've only seen the Seville friendly. I missed yesterday's, and I'm missing next Saturday's as well, which I really wanted to see because I'm at a wedding.
Okay.
So unless I can watch Spurs play on my phone or something, I don't know.
Priorities, mate. You got to get them sorted. You got to get it sorted.
In the middle of the ceremony, just watching the Spurs play or something.
We get things like some of the betting apps show live games. And so I've been throwing money around in different betting apps just to find some coverage of a Tottenham game. So that's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. But yeah, you watch the game. But during the season, we get Optus Sport, and they cover every single game. Yeah. So basically, if there's 6 games on at the same time, there's 6 channels that just show the games live. And then there's one channel which they call Goal Rush or whatever, which is they watch one game, but they'll go to all the other games if there's been goals.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
You guys have it lucky then. You can watch all the games.
Mate, it's 2:00 in the morning. There's not much lucky about it. I'll give you the hot tip. But when you're playing at Barnsley or Burnley at 1:00 and 2:00 in the morning and it's 0-0, it's like it's the longest day ever. So hopefully a lot different this year, that's for sure.
Okay. Romero will take out Haaland, crack him in 2, then Hoiberg will get to points. Okay, that sounds like a plan.
Oh, sounds like as I said, mate, who needs Conte? I think we've got this covered between us.
Yeah, he's probably got his Paratici watching the stream or something. I don't know.
Absolutely.
but like as in for me, see, 3:00 games, as you know, in England, we're not allowed to sort of watch them, right? So it's always like a stream. So as I'm Greek, there was a period during the Joel era up until I think it was like end of Redknapp,
right?
Where I could watch 3:00 games because the Greeks had the rights to watch it.
Yep.
So I had like you had with the Optus Sports, I had 5 or 6 channels, and I'd obviously just watch the Spurs ones, right? But it's amazing. But in England, we don't have this. But at the same time, like you said, you're up at 2 in the morning. So it's like for you, just before we close this off, like what is your? Do you have a ritual before you watch Tottenham? Do you have as in because you get up at like you said, these crazy hours of the morning. I'm lucky.
Stupid o'clock.
Yeah.
So,
it's as in. You told me before you don't sleep or you do sleep or what happens?
Mate, it depends on the game. Like North London Derby, there was no chance of me going to grab. Yeah, I struggle sleeping before a game because I'm just thinking, am I going to miss kickoff? Am I get whatever? So I tend to, if I can, get an afternoon nap in, but that depends on a number of things. But no, generally, if I'm going to stay up, I mean, we've had, especially during the end of the season, like all nighters where you're basically watching. There's a championship game which is on a different channel, which is where I saw Jed Spence a few times because people even then were sort of mentioning. So we're watching those games. And then it was the first Premier League game, and then we were normally the second game on where the whole group.
Oh, yeah.
And then there was one after it, which was normally a decent game as well. So it would be like, okay, well, we'll just stay up and watch the whole lot, and I'll sleep sometime in the week. It's a different thing. I'm lucky because, there's different chats that I'm on that kind of, you can sort of jump onto and it kind of keeps you, all the pre-game sort of stuff with these. I mean, half these legends in the chat.
Yeah.
Always, listening to those guys talking about it kind of keeps you. It almost makes you feel like you're sort of in the same country about to watch it.
I know
but I couldn't believe it when half the people say, "Oh, I won't get to watch the game today." I'm like, "You're not even half an hour away from the ground. You can't get in and you can't watch it. What is this? It's crazy." But yeah, it's good to sort of get involved in that sense through the YouTube channels and the chats and things like that. You tend to sort of stay as as positive as you can. Talking to those guys keeps you awake a little bit. And then plenty of coffee. So that's the trick.
It must be very difficult because I know my brother, he lived in America for a while.
Yep.
For whatever reason, and for him, and I have a brother-in-law and a sister. They live in America too. So when they watch games, it's always a very awkward times, and I'm like,
absolutely.
I'm really annoyed. Oh, I just got up on a hangover. I'm just going to the game or something, and they're just like, I'm up at like 3 a.m. 2 a.m. watching the game.
But the thing is,
you're complaining.
If I've been up all night and the game finishes at 5:30 in the morning and we've won, it's irrelevant. I can get up, have a shower. It's fine. If we lose, it's the longest week ever because you can't sleep Monday night, you don't sleep Tuesday, you just want to, it's just crazy. So the result means so much, and I know results mean a lot to people all over the world, but yeah, especially if it's if it's been one of those 0-all, we've been attacking a team, we're talking about low blocks and stuff, and we've just been attack and can't score, and Tottenham 0, Burnley 0 at Turf Moor. It's like, oh, I stayed up for another 2 hours to watch that, and I haven't slept, and I'm a cranky man. So watch out. Everyone knows. I think everyone checks the Tottenham result. And if we've drawn, then stay away from Marty for a while.
Stay away from Osber.
He's not going to be in a good mood. So, but no, you do it for the love of it, and it's fantastic. And as I said, sometimes the time difference works when we get the 12-hour difference. Sometimes you'll play the later game, and that's good for us because it's like an early morning rather than an all night. But yeah, you do it anyway. We're just privileged enough to be able to watch it. So you definitely make the most of it. That's for sure.
Because I find with overseas, like in the US or Australia, or maybe even Korea, it's the same. I don't really know in Asia. Because I actually know it's probably is because of being sport. As in, you guys can watch like almost any single game you want, right? But in the UK,
Definitely.
because they want fans to obviously go to the matches, they don't do 3 o'clock games. I think the only time they do it is like New Year's Day sometimes.
Okay, yep.
They might do a 3 o'clock game, or maybe a Boxing Day. They have the rights to do one.
Yep.
But in general, we don't get to catch it. So when we had that Greek channels back in the day, it was fine for me. I'll just like put on there. But now for me, it's like it's an away game. I have to find a stream, and you know how it's that is.
Search the net. Someone on Twitter looking for a dodgy stream and stuff like that. But it's. I mean, we're fortunate. We had Foxtel used to have the game, the pay TV channel, and they did the same thing. Different channels had all the games on it. Again, it didn't affect the time. The times were still unfortunately bad, but a different beIN Sport actually have the championship. So, and because they have a game that's earlier, we watch that. They normally kick off about 11 o'clock. They must kick off earlier in England, a championship game.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Yeah. So we get to watch that, and then I switch over to Optus to watch the Premier. So we've got so much. We got the Italian league, the Spanish leagues. They're just everywhere. Like it's 24/7. ESPN then covers the American games and stuff like that.
ESPN,
we got it all. It's a lucky country, mate. I'm telling you. But it's as long as you can stay up overnight, mate, you can watch whatever you like. But we're spoilt for choice when it comes to coverage. And there's. I think even last season, I think there was only probably a couple of games I missed. And mates of mine in England saying you watch more Tottenham games live than I did this year. So it's just a crazy thing for me. But no, we are spoiled, that's for sure.
I always find like the experience, which is why I do these sort of segments now, because obviously it's the off season, so there's no games on. Speaking to fans, like I spoke to Eugen or other people who or either were fans also older or fans are just abroad, for me, it intrigues me in terms of the time difference and in terms of just the experience is very different. Like I'm used to getting in the car because I live only about 30 minute. If we take out traffic, it's probably like a 20-minute drive to the ground.
Right.
It's like a local. So my experience is we get up. I go to my dad's house because it's like a family thing. We might have some lunch before if it's like a 3 o'clock kickoff or like a 5:30 kickoff. We'll have some food before, like a late lunch or something. And then we grab our snacks. I'll go to like the off license. That's my ritual before a game to need the stress food, during the match. and then it's like football is like it's like a day thing, like a proper day thing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an event.
For you guys, it's like an all-nighter. It sounds like. Yeah,
it is, and especially if we play like when I used to play, like we play like Saturday afternoons, and so which is again we're ahead in time, but we'd have to be careful because if we played and then we're having a few beers Saturday night, it was a nightmare trying to stay up for the game. So it was like, no, boys, not on it today. Tottenham's playing and stuff like that. So, but it is a lot different. I mean, I remember, when I was a kid in England, like, we'd throw the uncle and my dad would, we throw everyone in the back of the Bedford van and we park God knows how far away from the stadium. It seemed like forever. Just give someone a few pounds to park in their driveway and all this sort of stuff. And I remember as a kid, like walking towards the ground, and then that first, you turn into a street and you'd see the floodlight or you'd see the side of the stadium and stuff. And you go, oh, we're here, and even walking up into the old White Hart Lane, like going up the stairs and you sort of go up and then you just see the crowd on the other side and then you'd see the pitch and then it was just, your heart was just like racing. Being there was brilliant. So you don't get that. I mean, we've got our local game and stuff like that. It's not quite the same, but you don't get that atmosphere of that kind of thing. Or even when I went back, I went to the Bricklayers. There you go.
Yeah,
There's
I
a
know
memory
that.
point.
Yeah, yeah,
There you go. So I was there. Well, been there.
yeah.
And having a few pints with the boys before that was brilliant. Saying good day to everybody, it was fantastic. And then going to the game and catching the train home, going somewhere, and brilliant. Loved all that sort of stuff. It's totally different when you got your pajamas on and you're having Vegemite on toast and a coffee. Totally different scenario, right? So
Yeah.
but you're still just as passionate. The neighbours around here obviously will know when Tottenham's playing because they'll hear me, because it's just like and all this sort of stuff. So it's different, but it's you're spoilt for choice to get to watch it in the first place, which a lot of people don't. And having a bit of a chat with some people in a similar boat than you, or as I said, watching all these legends doing their chats their pre-game stuff, and sometimes they even turn the sound down and watch the where they do the watch along kind of stuff. And I did it
I
last
might do
night
some
with
of those actually this season.
yeah,
I think we played Chelsea away. I think is it in 2 weeks? Is
yes,
Chelsea away? So I was thinking
I
of
think
doing
it's
one.
Southampton and then Chelsea, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I might do that one just to see. If
Yeah.
people want to see me screaming at the TV for like 2 hours, I mean, and
Well,
shouting.
it's great too. I did it last night because
Yeah.
sort of flicking between, and and Sean in before. I was listening to those guys last
Yeah,
night, and
I've seen some of his actually. Yeah.
so I sort of turned the sound down. It's like I like listening to it's just trying to match up if you're a few seconds ahead or delayed or
Behind.
whatever.
Yeah.
It's nothing worse than when they're ahead and they're like goal, and it's like what? Where's
Where's
the
the
goal?
goal?
Then it happens, kind of thing. But no, it's great, and there's a real community of fans that you sort of you know yourself. You got mates and like you sort of all meet up and you go and you get that kind of that supported group. It's just part of life. It's
Do you
just
guys
having your
have
friends.
like a support? You have a supporters club, right? Do you guys have like a bar or something you guys go to watch a game ever or not?
There's not one local to me, but there are in Sydney and Adelaide and
Oh, there
Brisbane.
is.
They've got their own chapters and stuff like that. So they all meet and they have their. But again, it's hard to get a pub that's going to stay open at 2 to 4 o'clock in the morning and not serve you any beer because it's illegal, or I don't know what the rules are with that sort of stuff. But there are meetups and stuff like that. We had one the League Cup, the last league where we won the League Cup. There was one at the local club. They opened up the auditorium. So we could do it. So there's definitely things like that, but it's trying to find the venue that's willing to stay open and all that sort of stuff. So really, the community that you're building is the online one, and people that you sort of you can sort of chat to during a game, and that's kind of your substitute for sitting at the pub talking crap before a game. You just do it online instead.
Oh yeah, I do that too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, mate. We're Aussie, mate. We can talk crap all day. So that's fantastic. That's great.
Like, I mean, Australia's actually a country I do want to go to one day. I just want to avoid the extra, snakes and stuff like that.
Don't worry about the snakes, mate. We've got them all tamed out here, and there's no kangaroos on every street and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
is that sort of thing? Because, like you said, there's a big community in Australia, so it's just the sense that I'm sure I have like a distant cousin who's like in Australia, because Greek families are very big.
There's plenty of room in the Aussie Spur TV studio, my friend. We can throw it. We can do a live in the same room rather than being across the world. So we always throw a bed out, mate. That's for sure.
Yeah, sleep on the.
But you can come watch football 2 a.m. See how you go.
Yeah, but for example, for me, if it was me, I'd probably just stay up. I wouldn't sleep because I'm just generally like a night owl. I'd probably oversleep the day before, get some extra hours in, get up at like 3 in the afternoon, and be like, you know what, it's fine. I'll stay up to like 5 a.m.
Trying to get 2-3 hours is just a waste of space because I'm just thinking about the game starts soon and bugger it. I'll just watch.
I wouldn't be able to sleep personally.
No chance. I'll just watch Nottingham Forest play or Derby or someone like that, and just and which was cool because you get to see more football. And I mean, again, I wasn't a full on following Jed Spence left, right, and centre kind of player, a supporter, but there were times where he played and I went, oh, that's that Jed Spence. Because even during the season, there were whispers of this kid at Nottingham Forest or from Middlesbrough and all this.
Games. That's it.
Yeah, and I think that's where it might have started. Was it Liverpool? I think he played was it Liverpool? He played in one.
Did he play Man United?
Man United. It was one of the top clubs, and he played pretty well.
I played that. I watched him in that game.
Yeah, and people started talking about him as Tottenham and all this sort of stuff, and all that sort of thing. So it's it's where I first started to get to know. You know, you sort of listen out. Oh, yeah, I've heard that name, and you start watching them. So, let's see. Yeah, definitely Hoddle's legs.
Yeah.
There's Hoddle. Martin
I-
Chivers, who I got named
Ryan
after.
Chivers,
There you go.
yeah.
That's who I got named after. So,
Oh right.
yeah.
Oh okay.
So that's where the Marty comes from. But yeah. So no, I got Hoddle up there. There's a photo that I put on my. I was in the obviously just before we came out here, late '70s. Tottenham had a thing at the Cheshunt training ground in the Admiral kit days where we actually got to meet the players. And there's a photo of me
Oh
sitting
wow.
on Graham Hoddle's knee. And I've always said that's probably his dodgy knee. He probably didn't survive that very well. I was a lot smaller in those days, but yeah, got to meet him that day. And I don't think I slept for a week after that either. But yeah, I've got that photo on Twitter somewhere, so I'll have to get that one out again.
Some of the memories I have as a kid, as in meeting players, was so back in the old White Hart Lane. I don't know if you ever did this because I don't know, but we used to wait. I used to wait with my brother. And the place used to come out this exit. I think it was near the West Stand or something.
Not around by the gates.
Yeah, sort of by the gates. So I think it was like because I used to be on West, but it's like not as in the entrance of the Strand. It was like on the side. There was like this exit gates. And I had this book. I'm sure I have it somewhere.
Yeah,
it's like signed by like Casey Keller and some other players back in those days, right? Yeah,
another famous
I used to wait
American
outside.
Canadian.
Yeah, and I have like a book with some signatures. I think it was Casey Keller was one of them. I don't know if Stephen Carr or Teddy was like. I'd have to look for the book again. But I know Casey Keller was a very vivid memory of meeting Casey Keller, and he signed my book, and I was like a small kid, obviously. Wow. Also, I did meet Townsend once. Yeah, that was pretty nice.
Yeah,
I have an interview with him on my blog. But yeah,
nice.
I met Jerry Redknapp a couple times. You know, Redknapp was the manager. Yeah.
Well, I remember that time when I said about when I met Martin Yole at the thing. We had that thing, and Edgar Davids signed my program from that day.
Oh.
Robbie Keane came through, and he was and I did not understand a word he said, and no disrespect to the guy because I just didn't have a clue, and all I kept saying was yeah, and he just grabbed the thing and just signed it, and off he went in his car. But I thought it was brilliant. The guys coming out in their cars, and they just wound down the window and. I don't know if they still do that stuff. Maybe security is a bit too tough these days.
Because I don't know if you watch. Do you Tottenham away? Do you watch Tottenham away?
Oh yeah, when he's outside the training ground, seeing that.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So I think there's a video on their channel. I think it was a week or two ago. And
he got a few players.
He got a few players. Yeah.
Yeah. But then there's the other people who've got like 6 or 7 things. I mean, obviously they're going straight to eBay or something. I don't know, but
I keep them. I don't know that.
Yeah. Keep it. It's what it's. I don't understand that, but anyway, that's just me.
But also, I remember old memories. White Hart Lane was we used to get there really early. Nowadays we don't because it's just the way it is. And the parking, we used to park in a certain place, and they got closed. It was like an Irish place. I can't remember what it was, but they got closed down because of COVID. God bless it. It was, but now we park in these other areas in Tottenham.
Yeah.
And one memory I also have as a kid when I mentioned players is that you mentioned the cars, right? So they used to close off because I'm West Stand, but they used to do it. They used to close off the sides of like gates.
Yep.
And the players' cars would come in.
Okay. Yep.
I have this memory as a kid of like watching the cars drive past and trying to notice the players, right? And I think I'm sure I met a few back in the 90s, but I couldn't recall them to you now. Yeah. But like I even met Sol Campbell, I think, once or twice. But anyways.
Sorry to hear that, mate. Sorry to hear that.
yeah. Unfortunately. But like for me, like the two players I really, really want to meet, of course, is Van der Vaart, but like Jermaine Defoe is one player I really want to meet. We're talking like older players. Because for example, I'll tell you a funny story. So do you know Sky Andrews? You probably know him. He was the agent of Defoe at one point.
Okay. Yeah. I think
And I have a family friend who is like we used to be close with him. He's also a football agent. And obviously I told you when I was a kid, Defoe was like one of my favorite players. So one night he turns up at our house and he knocks on the door. He's like, "Oh, I've got a shirt for you." And it's like signed by Defoe. Like I think I have 2 shirts signed by Defoe. But
that's pretty cool.
Like that was really cool. So I have got, I'm saying contacts, but like things like this just happen, I think. And it's just, but like, if I don't know if Defoe's probably watching this, but please come on my channel.
Absolutely. Yeah. And when you finish with him, your Australian audience is waiting. So hit me up my DMs.
Starting my DMs. But like for me, Defoe was just one of those players. Like you said, for Hoddle, that was for you.
Yeah.
But like me growing up, because I always wanted to be a striker as well.
Yeah,
And I was sort of small, so Defoe was sort of like small. So I was like, yeah, no.
it made sense, right?
Yeah, yeah. But like he was just one of those players who obviously Arsenal at the time had like Henri, you had United
Yep,
had like Van Nistelrooy or whatever it was. And obviously we
yep,
had Defoe was like our striker at the time, and
yep,
he was
yep.
just it was like just something about like even when his second stint he was better than his first stint, but
Oh,
just the way he played the game, and just his
exactly.
goals, kind of goals he used to score were just
Yep.
he had that little bit of movement. And I actually watched a video because I think he trained with Ian Wright when he was growing up a lot, and Ian Wright trained him like quite a
Okay.
lot, I think, from what I read
Okay.
or watched.
Yep.
And apparently, I was watching a video saying about how Defoe used to like do something wrong, and then he told him to do something else, and then that's when he became like really good.
Yep.
And but Defoe had this whole knack, and I kind of picked this up of him, where he cuts in off the left and
Yep.
shoots bottom corner on his right.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's something
Like
that
you
I
just
just
told
always.
all the goalkeepers what your secret is now, man. You're
Yeah,
going to be
oh no, they already
struggling.
know it. It's fine. Because they go to me, oh,
Yeah.
you finesse it bottom corner. I was like,
Yeah.
what do you think?
Yeah.
Why?
Well,
Like, because
where'd I get
Kane
that
scored.
from?
Did you see the Rangers highlight? Or you saw the Rangers game? But Kane
Yeah, I saw the
scored.
Rangers game last night. Well, this morning. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, so you know, Kane, sorry, cuts in and he hits
Yep.
that goal. Yeah,
Yep.
it's that
Yep.
sort of
Oh,
style, right? Yeah,
oh, we can all do that, mate. That's fine.
yeah, it's just normal for me, you know.
It's one of those things though. When you see him, he just holds up that defender, and even the defender knows what he's going to do. But
Yeah,
Kane's just like waiting, right, that bang, and then it goes. He's just phenomenal. That guy, he's just brilliant.
Kane for me it's just. I think for me, I hate to say this, but he's probably second best ever Premier League striker. I think.
Yep.
Yeah, because I hate to say this, but I think Henri's probably number one.
Oh man, they're
But
classy.
yeah,
They're classy, and it's hard to
yeah,
compare because you got to compare
yeah,
the team that's around them
yeah.
and the managers that they've had and the different clubs they were at and all these sort of things. But I mean, there's just quality across the board. I mean, it's just hard to. I
But I
always
feel
I always
blessed.
struggle when people
Yeah.
compare it. I always struggle.
But I feel blessed to see Kane and Son like in my lifetime
Oh,
because they're just so good together. They're just
it's just brilliant, isn't it? There's just
yeah.
something happens, and that's the thing. And sometimes it's when you least expect it. Like Kane, even last night, the first few a few of his passes were. It was like, mate, what are you doing? And all of a sudden, he goes, "I got this." Bang, bang. It's like, okay, fine. I didn't doubt you. It was fine. But
Yeah.
he's just a quality guy, quality player. And Sonny, as I said, we're ready. We're ready now. Kane and Son. They're probably a year
It's
or so.
now. It's now or never. I think
It's
for
now
me.
or not going to happen, right? So the players that they've got, and I hope not even just for Tottenham's sake or else, I hope for their sake
They win
because
something.
that
Yeah.
they get something out of it. Because I could not imagine what the celebrations would be like in and around Tottenham.
Good question.
If
Actually.
there's an FA Cup or a League Cup or something like that, I mean, I can't imagine what that would be like over there. But it's we'd be celebrating over here in Oz. I can tell you that much.
So Bob says asking, is Conte really a potential player coach? I think what he means is sense that with Spence, because he's young, do you think he can bring him up to be better? Like sort of like Redknapp did with Walker, I guess.
Yeah, I think
And Poch.
Conte can get someone like a Mora and convert him probably quicker, and I think maybe that's why he's gone that way because I don't think Jed Spence is going to get to the. I don't matter who his manager is. He's 2-3 seasons away from being the best he can
I
be.
agree. Yeah.
Conte's ready now, so could he do it? Well, he could, and he's not. He's got one of the best coaches to lead him that way. But I think that Conte will do what he'll he'll do what he needs to do to get him up to speed. And as I said, even a few touches last night. There's enough about the kid that you go, yeah, no, there's something there, but there's so much more to the game mentality wise, and that's got to be learnt, and it's only going to be learnt through experience. So I think Conte will look at it, and he may well look at it and go, well, I think I can. The journey is a lot shorter if I get a Lucas Moura in that spot because I've only got to teach him this and this because he's got experience. He may look at an Emerson Royale and say, well, I've already taught him this and this, so he only needs to hear, but he may decide he's got to go at the same time. He'll assess that, and that's a word he said since the day he's got there. He'll assess who he needs to get rid of and bring in, and he'll see, right, who's the most sorted. He doesn't have that issue on the other side. Perisic knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Go and play. Cess, you watch what he's doing. it's all good. This side is a different story. So, obviously Conte could teach Spence how to do it, but I think Conte wants it now, and it's going to be real quick.
Wants it
It's
right
going to be a
now.
real quick turnaround for the. He's going to learn a lot real quick. But will it be enough for us to be confident in him doing it week in, week out? That'll be a different story.
I think for me with Spence, I agree with you, because if you look at someone like Kyle Walker, I think he spent a year out on loan.
Yep.
Where did he go first? I can't remember. Did he go back to the Championship for his first year? And they went to Villa. They went to Villa on loan, and that's when he sort of came into his stride. And then he came back, and Redknapp just chucked him in at right back. Goes, "You're ready."
You're ready.
And that's when it really changed. So for me, Spence, I think the most we'll see from him, at least at the beginning, obviously things can change, will probably be in the Carabao Cup and FA Cup matches, and maybe the odd sub appearance. Because I think Doherty for me is our starting right wing back for now.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, I mean, we look at Ollie Skip. I mean, we keep. I mean, I think the kid's great. I think he's a future England number 6, whatever, right? But he went to Norwich, learnt so much. I think he was their player of the season from memory. Came back in, and even now he's challenging for a spot in the middle. It's unfortunate he had the knock from last night, but he's challenging for a spot there. He was the player of the year at Norwich. Jed Spence has gone on loan from Middlesbrough to Nottingham Forest, played a fit, and we're looking at him going, "You're the number one." I just don't think it's going to happen like that. So I think it's more likely going to be, depending on, I guess, who goes out at the same time. Is it going to be a Mora? Is it going to be a Doherty? Is it going to be an Emerson Royale? They'll be the ones he has to bring in. Well, they're the choices at the moment. So, I've said to a few people that I wasn't overly surprised about Lucas Moura playing there, because he's got the last part. It's just that defensive part.
I've been calling for Lucas to play there since Conte joined the club, actually, because I was like, Emerson for me, I'm not saying he's a bad defender, right? He's not the level that we need for me.
Absolutely not.
Nowhere near. But he can do a job. Like, he did a job in the last few games, but he will never have the attributes, and he doesn't have the attributes to be a wing back for me. I just don't think he has it. And we need to just cut our losses and sell him. Doherty, for me, he's the best of what we've got. He's senior enough to start, and I think he'll be the starting one. But
I think so.
At that point, when Conte came in, I was like, if I earmarked one player, because obviously there was all discussions about how Moses was converted into a wing back and how he did that to Perisic even at Inter Milan. The one player I picked out, and I'm sure a number of other fans were the same, was Lucas Moura, because he has sort of the work rate. Absolutely. I think the only thing that's lacking with him, maybe a bit, is his end product. If he can just get, he's better than Emerson's, but if he can just get it just a little bit higher, I think he could actually do really well at right wing back.
Absolutely. Well, if Conte says to him, "I've got Richarlison in now, mate. I've got 4 people can play. I don't need you there. Yeah. There's a spot here." And Moura says, "All right, well, if that's how I'm going to get on the park, maybe that drives him to it. I don't know, but I think
he has to do that. Really, he has to be versatile.
Conte wants to. He's ready for this season. He's not. He doesn't care about the season after that. He doesn't care about whatever. I think that's why the whole words came out when Spence got signed about, he's a club signing.
Yeah.
He's saying that. I'm not going to put him in first up. He's not a Perisic. I'm not going to just walk him in. So sorry, he's a club signing. He probably likes the kid. He's got talent, and he probably sees there's some ability there. But it's just, I think Conte won't get Spence to where he wants to this season. He'll develop him, and he'll bring him on and having with those other players, he'll definitely develop the guy. But again, he wants to see out of who he's got, where's the shortest journey? Who's the one I can get to where I want? Unless they've still got some money where they're looking at someone right now and going, we're going to get this right wing back in. But again, then we've got 5 of them? I don't know. We've got more right wing backs than anyone else. So, I think
Kostic, but I think he's gone to West Ham, hasn't he? I think.
Yeah, but it was only like 10, 12 million.
12 million, yeah.
Crazy. Anyway,
because we were saying get rid of Emerson and Reguilon, because Reguilon's still in the club, and sign Kostic, because Kostic can play either wing.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah.
And
I'd rather keep Reguilon over Emerson personally, but anyways.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, that it's like they're all 70-75% players. It's like they've all got something missing. They've got something missing, and there's so many players we need to ship out right now to get experience or just get rid of because they're not in the ballpark of what Conte wants. that he wants players who he can say, "Yep, first teamer, whatever," right? And even I mean, Lenglet comes in. You could play him in the first team. I mean, the guy's not a mug. He's played 100 games for Barcelona. He plays for France. I'm sure Lloris knows a lot about Lenglet because he plays behind him for the national team. He's going to say, yeah, the guy can play football. So that's okay. He can fit in. Richarlison could start if we needed him to. Basuma can start. Whereas Spence is the one where, geez, do we have to sign? What other options have we got? And that's where we're at right now. So, when I said before that we need another centre back, I think we need that quality. Again, we need that step up on Dyer, and I think that's essential. But this whole right wing, I'd hate to see this right wing back role be the one that's going to be our undoing because we just don't have that person there. And I think, again, that's why he's playing Mora there because he knows Lucas can do this. And that's why he can do it. And it's a shorter journey to get him closer to what he needs right now, unless we can bring someone else in.
Like a short-term fix for a long-term issue, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it's like when you're playing, if people are playing FIFA or they're trying to put some bits together, they go, well, I haven't got anyone who's at that level. Who's the next one down? And then if he's at this level, what do I need to do to get him to at least close to this? And Moro's got the experience on the other guys. I mean, Doherty's played, he plays in that. I'm pretty sure he plays that position for Ireland. Don't they play the same formation?
Yeah, I think so.
So he knows that role, and he played it for Wolves. The guy
he played pretty well for Wolves actually. In that position. Yeah.
And when he got injured, we were like, "Oh, there's our top 4 champ." Everyone was devastated.
I was devastated.
Yeah, it was like but now we're kind of like, "Oh, we want to go even higher." But the guy can do a job, but it just won't be that job that he's not going to be what Perisic is. He's going to be Doherty. The guy makes a mistake. You can just imagine what's going to happen. But all 4 of those guys we mentioned for right wing back have got a mistake in them. They've all got something, either inexperience or they've got something that you're going to go, I knew that was going to happen. I could see it coming kind of thing. So, unless we bring someone in, I think it'll be interesting to see how he starts. I think personally, I think Doherty will be the one that will, but it's interesting to see Lucas Moura doing a lot of stuff there. That's for sure.
It'll be intriguing to see if Doherty comes off, who comes on in that position, because obviously even Kulusevski's played a bit there as well, which is a bit interesting. But
that's the thing. We're sort of we're sort of bringing players in who can cover and do most of the job, but they can't do all of it. So we're going to be lacking someone.
Top player in that position. So
I still think that there's got to be players out there that we are looking at very, very closely or close to bringing in that we don't know about or something. Hopefully. Because we hope so, because I can't imagine Conte is going to want to go into, I mean, I know it's only a week or 2 before the season starts now, but he sees exactly what we see. He must look at it and go, we're struggling here, fellas. We've really got to bring someone in. We've got everything else pretty close to it. Another centre back would be lovely to an experience. I think that's another one, but everywhere else we're kind of got pretty good coverage. I got nothing here, and yet you've given me a 2-3 year in the future. You've given me a couple of other guys that are I haven't got that first team number 1. He's my right wing back. We just don't have it.
Unless we create goals. Interesting. Okay.
Play Madison at right wing back. There you go.
Yeah, that's a solution. Sign him and play him right wing back.
We got it sorted again.
Because there was a link with Adama Traore the other day, actually, but I don't really want him, to be honest.
I'm just not a fan. I'm not a fan.
Of him at all.
No. I just look at him and I know, when he played there with Wolves, and he just, I'd not coming to us in Barcelona, and it's like, I'd be. That'd be my worst signing of the year award given out real quick if he came. All I keep hearing, the guy's quick and he's strong. Yeah, awesome. So can he play football? It's like, for what we need a bit more than that. And I just don't see how I know the position he plays and all this. I just don't see how he'd fit in with the group that we've got. So
he'd be another player who'd have to convert anyway. So he might as well just look with Lucas. So it's no point.
And that's the thing. I mean, and if Sessegnon starts playing really, really well, you're right. Maybe Perisic switches over to the right and Sess plays on the left. I mean, maybe that's something they can do, or bring your boy Reguilon back in. Who knows? But we just seem to have these players that just don't fit this system, and we're just trying to, I think we have
Sess and Perisic to Sess defense he
Yep.
kind of does fit the system. Honestly, Doherty as well. But
Yep.
Lucas is an experiment, and Spence is just another one who's
He's
like
the
a 2-3
future.
year plan. So
He's the
you're
future.
missing really another fullback at least
Absolutely.
who you think nailed on. He can do that position well, and
Absolutely.
it is on the right side. It's
Oh, exactly.
yeah,
As I said, I'm sure they know. I'm sure
yeah,
they're aware, and Conte sees it. But it's just who's and despite what Twitter say, the transfer system is quite complicated, and it's not just a case of go get them, because sometimes that player doesn't want to come and play at
I mean,
Tottenham.
Bastoni has been that issue. He doesn't want to leave
Yeah,
Inter Milan. So
no, I don't want to leave. And if someone says, what we want, if Manchester City said we want Son, or even with Harry Kane, it was like offer him all. Well, yeah, but Son would say, well, I don't want to go. Sorry, I'm happy where I am, and that's the end of it. You can't convince people. I mean, I know the dollar or the pound or the euro, whatever it is these days, it speaks a lot. But I think that the player has got to want to have the change. The player has got to want to come to us. Come over from Europe, living in London is an attractive thing. Champions League stadium, all those things are great. But at the end of the day, the player's got to want to be able to come. The club's got to want to be able to sell them and be able to. It's more than just tell him to come to Tottenham and give him this money and he'll be here. It doesn't happen like that. So, I think there's a lot more to it, despite what our Twitter friends say.
I mean, the only other right wing backs I say thought of is probably not the right word, but I've seen linked with us is like Singo from Torino. I don't really know much about.
One, yeah.
That I sorry say his name, Mukalele. Is it the Leipzig right wing back or something?
Yep.
I probably said his name wrong. Molina, is it Molina or Malele? Or is it both different players? I don't know.
From PSG?
No, PSG, the one that thinks PSG. It's not. We've not been linked with him, but this is like a dream one. It's Hakimi, but
Hakimi, yeah. But I mean,
he'd be the one, but he cost 80 million, I think.
Spend the money, man.
Yeah.
Didn't we have 150 at one stage?
But again, we should have the money, but
well, who knows? And who knows that we're not working on him? Who knows that we're not? We haven't tied up a few, and you just don't know. I mean, Basuma came out of the blue relatively quickly. Who knows at this time? The shame about it is they're not there playing. They've missed South Korea. They've missed Rangers.
Yeah.
Even if they came in this week, are you really going to play them against Roma?
Against Mourinho.
Yeah, over in Israel, are you going to visas? I don't even know how that all works. Then you into the season, which is okay, but we really want to hit this ground running, and we need to be ready for it. So
we're going to see. I guarantee we'll see more Zaniolo links or Roma player links after that game. It's just guaranteed.
Guarantee it. Well, maybe they're waiting for that game to be played. Maybe that's the agreement that they don't want to announce it till after it or something. And then half our team go there and we pick up a couple. You just don't know. They might say, "Look, get through
in the training ground or something."
Absolutely.
Swaps. Paratici doesn't like his swaps, so
well, give him Ndombele on a free or something,
and then we get Zaniolo.
Yeah, I mean that sounds fine to us, right? I mean we're all sitting at the Tottenham end of it, just saying, well, why aren't they coming to play for us? But and again, there's just as much work going in getting players out, because I think we can only have 25 in the squad or something like that, and then there's English born or English. It's
homegrown.
It's a complicated system. So. Especially because everyone's talking about players going out, people like Winks and that, and I'm not arguing that maybe they should, but it's another homegrown player out the door. Even though it seems crazy that how many have you got to have? Is it 7 or 8 in the squad or something? I don't know. It's
7.
Crazy.
I think it's 7.
But Eric Dyer's not one because his parents aren't, or they're
Portugal. Yeah.
It's like, but doesn't he play
Davies
for England?
Doesn't count either. But I think the Champions League homegrown is a bit different. I don't know how it works, but it's slightly different.
No. I just turn up and watch. It's too early in the morning for me to calculate.
For example, someone like Maddison, if we're getting rid of, say, Tanganga, Rodon, Wings, we're going to need to fill a spot. So
Yep, absolutely. And again, maybe that's where Jed Spence comes in as well, because he qualifies as well. I think he does. So, I mean, maybe that's one of the options that we had there too. But it's a nightmare of a thing. And we've changed 6 players already. Like that's a lot. I mean, I know people are, we haven't signed anyone for a couple of weeks. What's going on? Or there was that dull. It's like, really?
It's boring.
Wake up in the morning and I'm watching TV and there's nothing going on. But I think we've been busy. We've shipped players out. When you think that Kulichevsky and Bentancur arrived on the last day of the last January window, and now we bring in the ones that we have, it's a massive change. And when you think potentially what the starting lineup could be against Southampton in that first game, I mean, there could potentially be quite a number of changes that we've
Perisic,
had. And even
Zuma.
Yeah, well,
Richarlison
and
could
who
get
knows?
game. I don't know.
He
In
could.
the
Spence
defence
may
though, like
start.
someone like Spence, Forster, and Richarlison, you could argue won't
Yeah.
start straight away. But
I don't think
Perisic
so.
and Basuma will.
I think so.
I think, yeah,
I
at
think
least
so.
those two.
Yeah, no, I think so. And yeah, again, who knows? It's Conte we're talking about as well here. Who's we might Richarlison might play right wing back.
Start, I guess those three. I'd say I'd play Longley, Basuma, Perisic would be in my starting lineup. On the
well, Davies is injured at the moment anyway, isn't he?
Yeah,
so he'll probably just fit straight in there.
Longley.
Yeah. Which is unfortunate, especially because Perisic wouldn't have played with him very much, unless they both start against Roma and get a game under their belt. But again, you just don't know. There could be players coming this week that Conte says, "Nope, you're in straight away," and off you go. So who knows? Who knows?
Hakimi's currently at Spurs Lodge right now, for all we know.
Oh, yeah, I've heard the rumor. But I think
don't quote me on this because someone's going to comment in the comments.
There's no here we go. Yeah, no, we don't know it for sure, but the word on the street.
We suspect he's
out here in Australia, it's word on the street.
Yeah.
But yeah, I probably wouldn't trust it.
Yeah. So anyway, it's been great having you on, Martin.
No worries, man.
I've really enjoyed this actually, and it's nice to know about like fans who are like abroad and what your like life is like supporting Tottenham from another country. Because I only know myself.
Yeah.
Because I'm like I said, I'm only 20 minutes from the ground, so it's like a very local thing. And I thought it was quite interesting that you came from here and then you went to Australia, and obviously still supported the club as well. Like it's just very interesting.
No, it's just the same out here, mate. It's just as stressful, but we just get less sleep.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so thanks for coming on, and come on, you Spurs.
Absolutely, mate. Come on, you Spurs.